What is up, y'all? It's your boy Anarchy. Today, we will be discussing the E2 JJK. Oh, skip my camera. So, uh, like every, every series, this ending is controversial. Why? Because why wouldn't it be? Why would it not be controversial? And, I think a lot of ending discourse is typically overblown anyway. Like, everybody treats like, oh, it's so bad, it's so terrible, blah, 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 blah. And they act like an entire series is defined by the ending. And there's definitely some stuff in the ending that I get why people didn't like, but I'm also going to be frank and say that a lot of the ending issues were kind of things that you should have noticed as questionable throughout the series. What up, Simo 4? Can't believe you done this in Cameron Bailey. So, I've seen a lot of discussion, be it about Gojo, um, the fluffy nature of this last mission, um, where it's just kind of finding this cursed user and effectively him having been upset with a girl for, I don't want to say using him because that feels disingenuous. Um, but him effectively being upset that he thought giving her a big tip was gonna make her fall in love, and that's not real. What up, Joseph? Can you hear me? All right, now I'm worried that I just can't hear Joseph. But the way I kind of look at this is like we know that when Satoru Gojo was born, the bar went up for basically everything. They implied heavily that like the disaster curses were and a lot of the other curses that we see, like the commonality of special grades in this era is at least partially tied to the birth of Satoru Gojo. Um, so from that perspective, I guess it being a little sillier is indicative that the cases aren't going to be as extreme as what they were going through in this part of life, which is effectively a happy ending as far as the World's JJK. So, what up, Nader? Um, but I am going to give my little piece on Gojo because I think that, how do I put it? I think that the biggest thing undercutting the ending for Gojo's character isn't even necessarily, um, it's not even necessarily Gojo not coming back. It's not necessarily, it's the fact that the author has made it clear that he does not like Gojo. And when an author makes it clear that they do not like a character, anything that happens with that character is not able to be viewed through a lens that says this is for the betterment of the story. Hey, Thomas Volt. Um,
Hello.
so what I
Hey.
what you guys came into is I'm about to give my thoughts on Gojo, the Gojo
Mm,
section, because I know that
mm.
was really controversial. Um, but I think one of the biggest things that holds back this Gojo thing from like audience acceptance is everyone knows that Gege does not like Gojo. And that changes how we look at the art, right? Like if you know someone, like when somebody writes a story about coming from poverty and you're like, man, I don't know if I like the main character. They're more willing to do like desperate black and white things, but you realize that person's from actual poverty and they had to do some of that stuff to get to where they were in life, or have a criminal record versus somebody who writes those kinds of stories and they just work hard and they weren't really in that same position. You understand like what leads to those artistic decisions. And in the case of Gojo, like what he says in this chapter, haven't we had enough of Satoru Gojo? On no level does that actually sound like Gojo the character being like, "Hey, I think we need to like move past me existing as a society because there's not really anything that we got previous to this to indicate that Gojo necessarily had any like suicidal ideation, or even with the bar getting raised by his birth, saw himself as a detriment because even with him being there, his students that he took care of were willing to train and try to become stronger. Yuta takes that trip to Africa. If he was actually in the way of their growth, Yuta doesn't take that trip. He goes, "Why would I need to do that? We got you, Sensei." So nothing about the story indicates that like Gojo being in their lives is a detriment, outside of like people cracking jokes on his personality and saying like, "Oh, he's kind of like gross," or he's whatever, like, but or he's obnoxious, which is what it really comes down to. He's like he's obnoxious because he's kind of a jokester because it's hard for him to take a lot of stuff seriously because it's not scaling as high as he does. So when you have to say that, it's like you, the author, are really just saying, "I don't like this character," and I'm making the character say we shouldn't like having this guy around too. And I think that's how most people interpret that scene. Am I
Uh,
crazy?
yeah. It's there's a lot that's weird about this chapter. I want to say this first and foremost for like in case anybody like kind of takes it the wrong way. I don't think this is an absolutely terrible ending. I think it's serviceable considering the mistakes he'd already made up to this. Um, I think as it is, I like the general idea of it. I don't like how we really got here, and that leads to weird things like the Gojo scene, where it's like it feels like yeah, kind of trying to step over his character and hammer in the point of his story to the audience, and I'm like, it doesn't work. Like when Deku in the final chapter of MHA, like he's coming to like he's accepted his life as a teacher, he's accepted there's other ways to help, he's raising new generations of heroes. When he comes across Dai, a completely random kid, right? And Gege plays with a similar idea here, where Yuji is trying to give that bit of inspiration to random curse user. The difference is that it was a very specific problem for Deku to rationalize himself as being of worth without being a pro hero. And so at the end of that series, when he's finally come to terms with that and realize I can be of value, I can be of service without having to be a superhero, then he gets the reward of being a superhero again.
I'm also going
Here,
to point out,
hmm,
well, actually, keep going, because
yes,
you might be about to say what I was going to say and add on.
here, like when Yuji's saying like, I get the idea, like you don't have to be like the strongest sorcerer or whatever, to keep growing, which is like what Gojo was getting at, but it just feels like he's trying to make it seem like that like I think he kind of realized he didn't do as much with Gojo as he should have, even if he doesn't like him so much. And here's my take on it. He kind of sees Gojo as the embodiment of JJK getting popular way faster than he was anticipating. And he kind of centers a lot of that resentment on him. It's like there are just these weird comments and weird things that happen like all throughout that last stretch of chapters. I'm like, this is not how Gojo was written before. Like I felt like the hate that Gege was sort of joking about just kind of like like I felt like it just got way out of hand in the last arcs. Like it was so inconsistent with what Gojo would be saying, and then like, ah man, I had fun. But then like in the previous chapter, you had him being like completely confident or whatever that he was gonna win. And I'm like, well, what do you want out of this character? Like I feel like you know what you want, but you're not portraying that very well. So and like that was my thing. Then there's the other thing with Sukuna, but we'll get to that in a bit because I want to stick with Gojo for a while. Um, like, is that what you were gonna say, more or less, Inaki, or
I was gonna say that the other aspect of this of like trying to have Yuji pass on the inspiration he got from Gojo is that Gojo and Yuji serve a fundamentally different purpose within the world than Deku and All Might. Deku and All Might were very public heroes. So when Deku is trying to inspire this kid who's down,
yep.
it actually makes sense. Yuji is a stranger to this man. This is just somebody being like, hey, I know you're sitting in the back of a cop car, but it'll be okay. Like, that doesn't mean anything to anyone. This doesn't mean anything to the like, hey,
Do you
yeah,
want to
thanks for
be
helping me get arrested, bro.
do you
Like,
want to be inspired by LeBron or do you want to be inspired by a guy who's catching
Mall Cop
So Schmo.
74.
yeah.
Like, because it's like that doesn't mean anything. So that's a weird direction to take that character and like try to like create that moment where like cool, they easily like stomped him out. We know that Megumi still has at least the black dog. I don't think he has any other shadow puppets, but that doesn't matter for the rest of the story, right? Because like, we're never gonna see him fight something that needs to deal with that. But
No shame.
but
Hello.
what up, Kendra? We're talking
Hey.
about so
Hi.
we're on the part you probably care most about, which is the Gojo stuff.
Ah, yes. Let's
So
talk about it.
one of the things that I said leading into this is that any Gojo ending that we could get here is eclipsed by the fact that we all know that Gege has made it clear he does not like Gojo. So when
Like
Gojo
at all.
says Satoru Gojo is like overrated or whatever he says in the official translation, and
That
on
hardly
the unofficial
matters.
translation he says, "Aren't we tired of Satoru Gojo?" or something like that. Like when you have him say that, that doesn't sound
Right.
like the character being like, "Oh, my time has passed." It sounds like I am the author who is tired of the fact that I tried to make a mentor character and he just completely eclipsed my main cast or whatever. Like he's too powerful and I shouldn't have made him this strong or whatever the case you want to call it.
He's tired of everyone overhyping him.
Like
It's like,
that's what it
damn.
sounds like. It doesn't sound like, oh, Gojo's ready to die. Like that's not what that sounds like.
It sounds like
And
he's like, finally, I'm done drawing this fucker. I can move on.
I I have to agree with everything you just said, because that's exactly what it sounded like to me. Well, if you was so done with him, you shouldn't have made him like this. And he became crazy popular. That's your fault, Gege. Nobody told you to do all that shit. That's just it. I don't know. I find it a little bit disrespectful. Is that crazy of me to feel that way?
No.
No, it's
like
not at all.
Nope.
Cause like he to just do your character like that and just to treat him in such a way in your story, it's just I just find it disrespectful and disheartening, really.
Mhm.
well, and it's like fine. Because people always say like, oh, they're fictional. It's like, yeah, they're fictional, but like
Yeah.
it is such an odd choice
Mm-hmm.
and such a strange way of writing because like you can easily, if, in my opinion, you could have just had it where they tried to unseal him and they failed,
Yeah.
and that's a whole different direction where it's like, no, he's just gone. Like maybe one day in 1,000 years in the future, the seal just naturally breaks, but he's just fucked. Gojo can't do anything for the rest of the story. That's right, little baby.
And I would have been fine with that, honestly, instead of it going like this. And can you just imagine if Horikoshi did something like this to All Might? Just disrespected his character like this? I
Well,
can't
that's
even
what the
imagine.
fans think. They still
See,
think he disrespected All Might.
what would have been disrespectful to All
Nah,
Might would have
not
been if
like
he had
this.
actually sat in the office the entire last war arc. Like
Yeah, that's what
imagine
I'm
a
saying.
world
Can
where
you
All Might is
imagine
just
that?
sitting there like, yeah, Deku, you're really fighting. Oh, Bakugo Shonen. That hole in your chest, it's gaping.
So what you're
Like,
saying is the World Heroes mission really stuck with them. Where All
Ju-
Might was in the back.
Jujutsu Kaisen is a deconstruction of shonen. It does everything different. It's not like that kitty stuff you play in the sandbox with.
So
We don't care about our
Okay.
Black
characters.
Clover
so,
fans.
so here's the part where, and this will sound negative Nancy as hell, but I believe that there has been a fundamental disconnect from how Gege actually writes and like what he's been doing with his character writing, especially
Mhm.
for a lot of these characters, versus how the story, like how the fans perceive it and what's actually
Yes,
going on.
absolutely.
Especially with characters like, for example, Nobara, where when she came out, people were like, "Oh yeah, she's not a damsel. She's like on equal footing with the guys. She's revolutionary because she's like taking that stance about being pretty and liking girly things." And it's like on a surface level, the Kyoto School arc, like that battle, like as far as characterization goes, is like the peak of Nobara, which is insane, by the way. Like that's really early in the story.
Yeah.
But it's also meaningless because Nobara, and I don't know how to put this gently, is kind of a jobber. Um, she can't beat what's her face. And the mission she's introduced, she has to get saved by Yuji. Um, Even in the fight against the Blood Brothers, Yuji does most of the heavy lifting.
Mhm.
Like he pummels the shit out of the little ugly boy and then swaps places with her.
It's true. It's true.
So like the whole first season, Nobara is carried, which is why she wasn't ready for Shibuya. And like the difference between her fight with Lucky Boy and the difference between Megumi's fight with Lucky Boy is that she fought a head-up fight with him and lost. Megumi got snubbed after breaking into Dagon's domain, going 1v1 with Toji, and like all that. Like the difference is astronomical in how she was treated. And like she got that cool moment with Mahito, and that was immediately overshadowed by her getting her eyeball flicked out.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say, and this is a detail that I feel like was glossed over, I'm going to jump to the last page a little bit here, just because I do want to say something like, I think Nobara is a good concept of a character. I can't say she's a good character because of how she was handled.
Mhm.
And I always said
agree.
that because of how he handled her death. I can't even say she's the better Sakura. Sakura,
I was
Oh,
going to comment
that is-
on that. I was
no,
going to comment
actually,
on
no.
that
I fully
Sakura
reject that idea.
deserves
Sakura gets
deserves
fully
all her
reject that
flowers.
idea.
Sakura gets a lot of
I
Sakura
am
gets a
largely
lot.
unfamiliar with Sakura, and even I know that she was better than Nobara.
Mhm.
Dude, Sakura gets like a lot of underserved hate because here's the thing. A lot of this is because of two things. One, anime fans are pretty sexist. You see this like even in manga discussions all the time. Like they're like
Mhm.
best female cast. Well, my female did better than your female. It's just like really a bunch of bullshit.
Uh-huh.
The other part is the anime made Sakura more of
Up
a
the boy craziness, and they upped her being mean to the Naruto.
yeah. She's not
Yeah.
like that. Like she's not really like that in the manga. In fact, it's part of her character development in the manga that she chills out after time skip.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like she in part one, like she is kind of like the boy crazy, more irritable, whatnot. That's not
How
really
old
her
are they
character
in
in
part
part
one?
two. Like
They're
like
like
in part
11,
two,
12.
in part two, she's Naruto's biggest shooter.
Yep.
Like 100%. She's Naruto's biggest shooter. She's basically by his side for the whole thing of like we're gonna see this thing through. And she only hits him twice in the manga. One is after time skip when like one of the first things he says to her is like really stupid and insulting, like and he deserved it. The second one is when she was like really worried for him after the pain arc, like, and then she hugs him right after. That's it. Those are the only times she hits him. In the anime, it is like almost every other episode she's fucking smacking him.
It
And
They
really
did make her.
sucks
They really
because
did make her very unsufferable
it
in the
really
anime.
sucks when you
Even
look
I
at
hate.
what. Oh, sorry, I cut you off. My apologies.
No, it's fair.
I was going to say that like Period, even what Cameron said, like Period really destroys how people are going to perceive Sakura in the same way they did with Orihime. And it's a shame because now in 2024, full access to the internet, we all can connect with each other where we can push like threads of like, here's what she actually is like in the manga, but people don't care because their first opinion of them is from the anime and because of their inherent sexism, like folks said, because Sakura is not useless at all. She's one of the most important members of Team Seven, and the reason why Naruto is still around. So she deserves her flowers rather than
So
hate.
this is the other thing about that. Like Nobara is what Sakura should have been take. Nobara's fight against the Broom Girl is discount Sakura versus Eden.
Yes, absolutely.
I remember when that was like in the anime and Polygon made that whole article like just sucking it off and being like super like it was just so blatantly fake. I'm like, bro, that conversation is not deep at all. It barely gets to what either character was really about. Like, sort of does with Nobara, but like she just says, I like girly things. I like makeup and stuff. And I'm like, it feels kind of backhandedly sexist in a way. um, like I don't think like again, I don't think
Oh,
this is conscious on Gege's part, but like he was I believe he was told that he had to add a female character to the trio. And that's kind of where Nobara comes from. And then as soon as she kind of fulfills her purpose, she's gone. And she's gone for half the series. Now, I would love to see this happen in another of these popular series, whether it was MHA or Black Clover or Bleach or Naruto, or whatnot, and see the fans defend it like they were freaking defending it here. Because they would not
Yeah.
be able to.
we have a super chat.
Oh,
Aniki, you still here? Oh, you muted. Miss Andrew pulled up with $10, said, unlike other manga, this ending didn't ruin my love for the manga. I remember just after getting beat for not eating my broccoli by my mom, running to my room and crying when Gojo versus Sukuna happened. Oh no.
I think that needs the nerd voice.
I think it is.
Okay, I'll do it. Unlike other manga, this ending didn't ruin my love for the manga. I remember just after getting beat for not eating my broccoli by my mom running to my room and crying when Gojo versus Sukuna happened.
So I don't know if you guys talked about this prior.
Oh,
In
hold
one of
on, I
these-
got to do the super chat.
Oh, go ahead.
So Andrew came through with the super chat. Oh, never mind. My daughter's yelling again.
Oh, poor baby.
Yeah.
So the final page, do you think that's the middle finger? Because that's kind of what it feels like.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what everybody was saying. Is it?
I don't know.
Very stupid ass.
I think it's inspired by Inception's ending, actually.
Mhm.
You guys remember the end of Inception?
Yeah, the
I
Like
never watched
there's that little question of maybe, right? It's kind of the same thing here. I will say there's a stronger emphasis on them being like Sukuna can't reincarnate and like the threat's over and it'll fulfill its purpose now. But it is a pretty eerie final page. So I think there is some of that.
It gave me AOT vibes. With the tree.
It's not as strong, but it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. But then that brings me to my other big problem with this chapter. Sukuna. Oh man.
I mean, it's just an issue with JJK as like for the past few years where great concepts, just poor build up, I guess. Because
Yeah,
I
build
love the
and
chat between
execute.
him and Mahito. But if we actually had more to this, where
Yeah.
he mentions how like there's two chances, right? Like if there's a path that opens up, maybe I'll take it. Maybe I'll walk down it.
This is a chapter that for me is mainly missing context for like a lot of other things. I'm like, you kind of cut through what feels like 30% of potential story arcs to reach this. So you could get out of the magazine ASAP. And I really feel like after the Zenin clan massacre, when Gege took that 3-month break and he realized, hey, I really like hanging around doing nothing instead of breaking my back drawing these things on a deadline. And after that, his ideology, his as a writer, just completely shifts.
Okay,
Mm.
back now. I can finally acknowledge Andrew's super chat because he paid money for that. So, here we go. Unlike other manga, this ending didn't ruin my love for the manga. I remember just after getting beat for not eating my broccoli by my mom, running to my room and crying when Gojo versus Sukuna happened.
We actually read that out like twice before.
Okay, there we go. I wouldn't know because I was doing parent stuff.
No, but we appreciate that.
Oh.
We appreciate you, Andrew.
It deserves to be read 3 times.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mom's been playing video games for 4 hours. She can handle the baby for a couple minutes. So, what's funny is that I was going to talk about the finger. I got sidetracked talking about Nobara's characterization. The finger not working, and this is why I said it was kind of glazed over. The basis for that is in Shibuya, because if you remember when she hits Mahito, it kind of like hits the clone, bounces to the base body, then bounces back again.
Mhm.
So even though she made a binding vow to not directly harm the finger, once it goes through and hits Sukuna, it likely just reverberated and bounced right back to the finger. Which would explain why it was destroyed. It also would have created that link through resonance, so that when Yuji got done beating Sukuna, what was left of him inside that finger was able to go away, allowing it to actually be a talisman.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like that we have to guess and hope that that's the case.
Mhm.
Right.
Just because for Sukuna to be who he is, whether or not he's like truly defeated, and like with the conversation in this chapter, like you can kind of say it, so this is something else that I'm going to say is that I never really addressed it because this is actually something I want to praise about the chapter. I always thought Sukuna was a bit of a liar once we had Urume.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because in addition to that, like the whole, the loneliness of strength, the difference is that Gojo did not have a dedicated Urume. Kashimo didn't have that. None of them had somebody who was just by their side the entire time.
Gojo lost his Urume with Geto.
Right.
And even that, I would say they had a very different dynamic. And especially because what we see is that the implication of the spirit world is that Sakura met Uraume when she was a child, or they were a child.
Mhm.
We know that, ate his twin in utero like Chang. Then he proceeded to basically have to live in a world where being four-armed and two-faced was judged pretty heavily. Not exactly sure why, but it was pretty harshly judged. And then from there, he just went around and whooped people's asses. Why? Because that's what he needed to do.
Mhm.
And he even says, like, I just like spit up the curse because he just grew up with so much hatred that he was like, fuck it, I hate all of you too. And he was never gonna let Yuji be like the one who showed him a new way, right?
Mhm.
And I don't even think that came down to being about respecting anyone, but more about like, no, you are supposed to be the victor. Beat my ass and go on with your day. Like rejecting being Yuji's vessel again is the most respectful thing that Sukuna ever did. to Yuji. And Mahito being there in the end, cool. You know what? That's a cool way to like give some validity to his soul thing. And it also makes the afterlife scene we saw with Gojo have a bit more credibility.
Yeah.
Since, you have because like what does Sukuna see is he's not gonna be at an airport. That doesn't mean anything to him. Like so yeah. That I want to acknowledge. I think does anybody disagree that at least Sukuna's finale, even if you're keeping up to his dynamic with Ume was at least somewhat predictable, um, that's still solid. That landing stuck. I think that's the best part of the ending is Sukuna.
Yeah, I agree. I love the conversation with Mahito. It just really sucks because up until this point, I was never really engaged with Sukuna. Gege didn't really give me an opportunity to care. So when he talks about like, no, that's not true, I'm like, oh, this is cool. It probably is the strongest part of this chapter. Especially when he's like, he does admit that I lost. It makes, I guess, for Sukuna fans, it was worth following him from start to finish. I just feel like a lot of dissatisfaction could have been. That's why I said earlier, where a lot of JK's issues is it's a great conclusion. The journey to it was kind of meh.
You explained that
So
perfectly for me too. I feel the same way because
when I look
I
at the
don't. I
character
didn't really care
writing,
about him either.
when I look at the character writing in JJK, I think there are clear standouts that are done very well. I think Nanami is arguably one of the best characters in the series. And
Agreed.
I think a part of that comes from the fact that Gege likely had some kind of job before becoming a mangaka. Because I'm pretty sure he didn't start writing JJK until like 20 something. I wouldn't be surprised if he at least had, part-time jobs or something else. Um, and it talks about, because, Nanami talks about, but like Nanami is are you an adult who is now getting crushed by your work schedule and having to define your life around what like work itself? Like he's the 7 to 3 sorcerer, then he clocks out.
Mm-hmm.
He gets more cursed energy for overtime because fuck that man. Like you got me doing extra, I gotta lock in.
Mm-hmm.
He gets extra energy just so he can finish the job faster when he has to work off the clock. That's very 20 something. I guess what to call it. How they say it? 20 something's coded. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, but it's very intentionally done well. And I think I started reading JJK when I was like 26, 27. So now I mean lined up really well in that
Mm-hmm.
department. But then you have characters like um Nobara, where there's like the idea that you're presented as kind of strong, but the execution is fairly weak
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
to non-existent for most of the series. And I've always said, and like Volk, no, it wasn't Volk, it was Seth. Seth was like, I wonder if this negative reaction would be happening if hidden inventory didn't happen.
Mm.
And somebody asked, what happened? What's up with hidden inventory? And I was just like, it's better than the entire rest of the series.
Correct.
Honestly, yeah.
That's the
I
truth.
It's
saw
the
that.
best.
I saw that post you made.
It is the best stretch of chapters in the entirety of JJK.
I
It has
remember.
the best character writing. It has really good fights.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is everything you should want out of a manga.
Yeah.
It's a great villain. It's also like it doesn't overstay its welcome either. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's no
Mhm.
fat to it, which is what I really like about that arc. And
I
it's so much more like it just feels a lot more compelling than a lot of what came after. And that was kind of my thing with Sukuna is I feel like he could have had a flashback arc of that caliber, which would make the Arame, him choosing the path of Arame, this chapter, mean something.
Mhm.
Because as it stands, I see that and I'm like, this just feels like last minute you're trying to give like some more softer characterization to Sukuna, which he's kind of done, but also not really. And he's just hinted at it. I'm like, that doesn't work for what you've set up. It doesn't work.
And I think it's fine if people have Shibuya over. You're allowed to feel that way. I personally feel like there's moments in Shibuya that don't hold any weight for me.
Yeah.
The biggest example being the Megumi Yuji tag team against the inverse curse user.
Hmm.
That just feels like a padding fight. Like it's just there
Yeah, it
for
feels like filler.
coolness. And so that's part of like when I read something and on every reread, and I've reread Shibuya at least 3 times, I felt like, yeah, this is just kind of here. I don't care about this section.
I I remember when I caught up to JJK. It was around before I think it was when season 1 ended, or a bit after, because I remember I read it alongside people in the church. And I got to hit an inventory, obviously, really after season 1. And I was like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. Like from start to finish, fantastic character writing, fantastic story writing, it all just great. Hit Shibuya, kind of good to start with Mekamaru, because I really like Mekamaru.
Same.
And it just goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And after Nanami and after Todo's like little performance, JK never felt the same. And then you hit Gojo's return, and then it just went all downhill. And I've never felt that way about the series, where my copium for a better like the next chapter will come. Maybe it'll be better. I've never felt this way about JJK. And I feel like if they kept the the peak of hidden inventory in mind, we would have had a better situation.
Also, and this is small detail, but hidden inventory, I feel like Gege utilized the manga template just a little better. And and the reason why I say that is because of it has possibly the most hilarious page turn I have ever encountered in manga with the dog scene. Especially like if you're reading on phone or whatever, you're like you go
The
page.
docs.
The dude tries to jump on Ghetto and then they turn the page and it's just a picture of a dog.
Oh.
But that only works like in manga. Like you can do it in anime, but when you do it in animation, it's obvious that the scene shifted. Whereas when you're reading it, all of a sudden you just like get a picture of a dog, and like, wait, what the fuck? And then you're like, oh, like page turns are an extremely important skill. And like one of
Hmm.
the best ones that you get in My Hero, for example, is the page turn in the mall where you see Shigaraki's face and he's just
Yes.
like, oh my God, he's ashier than I realized. Like,
So dusty.
it's-
Yo, people, how are you doing, guys?
hey, what
Hello.
up, Bonzu?
What's up? What's up? What's up? I just finished to read the four last chapters of JJK. I didn't read for a month, so yeah, it was quite an experience, I will say.
Look,
So, what you were talking about my MHA, from what I heard,
well,
like
we were
a few
talking
minutes
about
ago.
the page turns and how they're a useful skill in manga. But
Yes, yes,
and
it
like
is a
okay, so
skill.
I guess that's the other problem I have a bit too with this is that
Mhm.
like we have that scene of them like playing the board game Othello and stuff. It's like that. We don't need that. Like keep us getting story. Give us actual story. I understand you want to show that they like still have fun, but you really gotta keep giving us story here. This is a really weird. Like it's just a and I think one of the best ways I saw it described is that it just doesn't feel like a final chapter.
Yeah,
I
if
think
it feels like the
It
beginning of
doesn't.
an arc. Like it really does.
it is. I think it was a purpose. It just because sorcerers will always be sorcerers. They will always do their job as what they are there for because people will always have negative feelings. So this end is just like showing like it's like back we will always be back as doing what we do. Our normal life is about just the status quo is them chasing up, but after curses and curse users. So yeah, the end is how it felt to me. The end was more like okay, back to zero. It's not. It felt like yeah, I'm a sorcerer and I will always be one. That's what he said to what is his name? The human curse. The guy with the hands. I forgot his name. Yuji. Yuji said something to him, like when he killed him before before that he was captured. Oh, I forgot the name. The guy with the white hair. But yeah, he said to him that I am you, you're me.
Oh, Mahito.
I always hated
Mahito,
that if I'm
thank you.
honest, but
But yeah, he
I
said to
never
him,
liked that I am you thing.
yeah, I don't understand what he meant, but till today I don't understand what he meant by that. Even the idea for me was the concept of you will come back in any other form. I mean, oh, if I'm there, I'll kill you again because it is my job to do it. And that's true. And even if he dies, someone else will do it because this whole society tries about people who have bad feelings, have bad thoughts. These become curses, and somebody has to kill these curses. And it's a cycle that won't end. That's why for me it was just the end. It's just going back to the status quo. It's a fitting end for love.
Hmm.
That's how I see it for me. But yeah, oh guys, I'm telling you, my parents just told me.
But yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. I can't believe you've done this. That is exactly how I've always felt about the IMU thing. Who said the IMU thing is like perfect instance of nonsense villain equals hero speech.
I like it, but it feels like a no shit Sherlock. It's like when I mean it's perfect for Yuji because Yuji is that type of person. He's very simple. But when he stands there and says it, it very much feels like Gege was like, okay, I have to hammer in that he is like him. So how do I do it? Oh, I am you. Perfect. That's it.
And
Essentially.
see, to me, it always felt like a very surface level understanding of the difference between like curses and humans.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so I never liked it because it's like, no, there's fundamentally different things that drive you, Eugene. Like the core of why you move and what you move to do. And that's why it was made a little more tolerable by like it all being summarized as like a trauma response and Yuji switching over to that I'm a cog thing and him ultimately rejecting the cog in his fight with Sukuna, which means he's effectively also rejected the IMU thing.
Yeah.
So like, it is wrong. So my feeling of no, this is wrong, which is why like a lot of people were like, oh, this is so cool because he's staring him down. But I was like, no, this is like fundamentally wrong. Like this isn't true. Um,
So would you think that the speech bubble with Yuji saying I am you would have an asterisk and underneath it'd be like, except there's a lot more to me that we don't share.
well, it's just like there's a lack of nuance to that kind of like thinking that
Yes,
and I
absolutely.
remember somebody got really mad at me, but I was like, they were like, I am you. I was like, no, that's terrible. And I was like on a nuance, if you like take a nuanced look at both of their characters, there's genuinely far more depth to Yuji's motivations, why he does things. And you can't summarize like Yuji does this because he's human, because humans operate in such a varied like array that you could say like, oh, like humanity or like what we call humanity plays a part in what Yuji's motivations are, but the personal, blah, 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 blah. Whereas Mahito is literally just a manifestation of humanity's evil.
Mhm.
He is
Mhm.
effectively like a primordial force.
Yes.
Yuji is a lot more complicated than that. And that's not a knock on Mahito's character because like what Mahito represents is like man versus nature, but like what if that nature is human nature itself
Mhm.
personified into an entity? That's cool. It's just like that particular like philosophy. I'm like, no, like Yuji's a simple kid and he's not as smart as we, especially like if I'm talking to like somebody who, because I think somebody else like 28, like I'm like 28, and I'm talking to you and you're like 25, you should have a better understanding of this than a 15, 16-year-old kid like Yuji. So it's okay for Yuji, like while steeping in trauma and having watched Sukuna use his body to blow up some stuff, makes the mistake of thinking this way. But we as readers need to recognize that what Yuji is saying has to be challenged because it doesn't actually make sense.
Uh,
So I'll give Gaga the credit for at least doing that and like having it addressed and be like, yeah, no, that's not.
I mean, even beyond this final chapter, man, like I just did not like how basically 90% of the stuff after Gojo's death was going. I actually really liked Kenjaku versus what was the
Akaba?
comedian?
Sakaba.
Takaba. I actually really liked that fight. That might be his most creative. It was like really fun. I think I kind of got to who Kenjaku was. The Yuta part, especially with the retrospect with the exposition a few chapters ago was so weird because it was like Gege putting his own realization into words like, maybe I should have had Maki do that instead. And it was
Oh,
like,
we talked about the Maki
Oh,
when Maki's like talking
yeah.
to Yuta and everyone like we should have done this. This was
Yeah,
weak.
that.
I found
That
that so
chapter was
weird.
so fucking weird.
It was such a
That
waste of
was
space.
weird.
So the one thing I liked about that chapter, and it was something that somebody else said, which is that Yuta is the strongest now,
Huh?
but because Yuta is now the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer.
Really?
As he should
And
be.
yeah, he
what
is.
and the significance of that is that everybody was trying to argue how they should have taken on more responsibility in the fight. Whereas with Gojo, people were a bit more willing to be complacent, similar to with All Might. So we know that Gojo's dream has been accomplished by Yuta being able to be the strongest, but still have a proper support network.
Hmm.
But like, it also ignores that part of why Gojo was like, you guys can leave the jobs to me, is because he truly didn't want people like Nanami dying. He didn't want any more ghettos or anything like that where good people go bad or get disillusioned and are traumatized or scarred by the stuff going on. He didn't want the higher ups, treating young jujutsu sorcerers and like excluding them. So it's like, so I'm like, all right, that's cool. It was just handled really weird.
Yeah.
And like it like the conversation, it's one of those things that like I'm glad I saw somebody say that and like they give me like a different perspective on it. I still think that that's one of those times where I think being a little more ham-fisted, especially because if you're gonna go like and do all this exposition like expositing anyway, you might as well just have somebody say like, even if you're the strongest, we should have like even if you're stronger than us, we should have done more to help you. And it should have been like because it was kind of set up like a gag instead of like a serious conversation on the philosophy of the series. Right? Like it's almost comedic the way Maki's like ripping him a new one, and everybody's like, ha 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 ha, his girlfriend's yelling at him. Like that's like the funny like that's how like a lot of people just took that shit. Like, he's getting yelled at by his girlfriend and stuff. So it's like
He has a lot of that style of writing where like he kind of tries to he does package things in kind of like more sarcastic beats or more lighthearted humorous beats. And I get the idea of it, but it does also feel like he's treating things a little too loosely. Like he's a little ironic about it all. And
which
like, that's a trap that a lot of writers fell into, and where like you kind of don't know how to approach a topic, so you take like a light joking approach to it, but it just gets excessive. It's kind of the Marvel effect, right?
so
Like
you know what I just realized?
what?
You just said the real reason why Gege doesn't like Satoru Gojo. He put too much of himself in him.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's interesting.
He just because like think about it, like Gojo's whole thing is how like distant and like how aloof he kind of is. And a lot of this writing is kind of aloof. Like it's like, well, I guess that's enough, sure. Also, in regards to, I don't know, 'cause I don't think it's really been addressed. the fact that Yuji hasn't had that finger for like a month might mean he can't RCT it back.
Mhm.
We don't know for sure. I'm just saying that that might be what the situation is that he can't do it.
So up until this point, right, I've never really put a lot of validity in some people's complaints about My Hero, right? Where they're like, God, My Hero, it's like before Act 3, it was so peak, right? Which I don't agree with, right? I don't see that. But now I feel like I'm in their position, right? At the end of the day, it's all subjective. I don't understand, right, how Gege can write such a strong like back-to-back chapters of like 265 and 266, right? 265 is when Yuji and Unk are like talking, right? And they're in the little like weird domain that we don't really know much about, but we can kind of infer that it's all about the soul, right? I love this chapter. I think it's one of Gege's best. And then chapter 266, obviously following that up, where they just go all out and like Yuji talks to Megami. And it's like, man, I'm going to really miss you. Like those were really great chapters. I don't understand where that fuel went. Like, how would you go from this to like Sukuna being the essence of the poo game, with the little fucking blob, and then after that the Maki bitching at everyone, and then the finale. I don't get it. Like, what's happening?
I mean,
Where's the
I mean,
steam?
a lot of the MHA Act 3 hate comes from like just okay. I think fans, when they keep up with something for so long, they have trouble seeing it change. And for a long time, people were begging MHA to do exactly what it did in Final Arc.
Mhm.
And it was to cut out the school stuff, go all in on like villain fights, like really pump up the action. But as soon as it did that, the mood shifted. They were like, well, we wanted the other thing. What about what it was like before? And it's kind of just the grass is always greener on the other side situation where they can't reconcile it evolving and shifting away from maybe what they were initially into the series for, or what they didn't even realize they liked about the series, or maybe even had different ideas about the characters. Because still to this day, and this is gonna exist for a while until the anime does this, and probably is going to exist in some form always. People still think Deku's goal was to become the absolute number one hero on the Billboard charts.
It was never that.
He was never that. Like he kept saying, I
His thing
want
has
to be
always
the
been saving
greatest.
people.
I
Yeah,
want to
saving
be the
people with a
greatest.
smile, just like All
Yeah.
Might.
When he says, I want to be the greatest hero, he's saying, I want to be the best version of myself. That's what do your best means. That's why when like he finally gets his chance to shine at the end, you can't measure his greatness by something that's fleeting, like a Billboard ranking. Everybody sees him as the greatest hero now because he uplifted everybody else into doing a better job. Like you can't measure that. Now, when you get to JJK, I definitely feel like there was that shift in philosophy for Gege where there was always that kind of aloof, jokey kind of handling of explanations and stuff, but he just kind of overdoes it as he keeps having to come up with stuff to keep up the weekly schedule. And it does kind of get to him because he just starts running on fumes at a few points. Um I didn't really like how Megami was handled. We've already talked about Nobara. A lot of random characters just pop up in culling games and then don't really do much. Americans barrel their way into the plot, and
America. Bye-bye.
yeah, um, it's just a lot of things that are weird. Um, and like I feel like Gege was I feel like Gege was channeling some of his resentment for certain things into the story. Like some things just come off a little spiteful. I'm sorry. Like,
It does.
yeah, I mean, a lot of the parts with Gojo, whether it was his death or some of like the comments afterwards, like it's like he channels some of his personal feelings of antipathy, but he also kind of recognizes the other side of it. So you have these two things clashing all the time in the last stretch of arcs, and it's just really weird, man. Like I I do want to give this series a reread. Um, like I want to see how it is from beginning to end. It's easy to read, but man, like there's definitely that change in philosophy that happens.
So So I can't believe you've done this as asking real question because I've got mixed responses to this, but what is the main theme of JJK? And if I'm honest, I lean towards, especially with the final conclusion for Sukuna's character, uh, and us ending with the trio together. I think JJK is actually a series that, as much as people didn't think it was, it's a very my friends are my power. Uh,
I
Absolutely.
agree. Honestly, up until this
series.
point, I was going to say I don't even think Gege knows it, but I think subconsciously Gege felt he wanted to approach this through a I'm gonna do my own thing and not follow the common tropes, but still fell into that.
Because the big thing that is lionized as damaging to these characters, and like the main people who died in the Shinjuku showdown, like okay, we had Choso die, but Choso died for someone,
Yes,
right? Sukuna
his
died,
wife.
heavily isolationist view. He was coping, heavy isolationist. Gojo felt isolated. Kashimo felt isolated. The big thing that you are fighting against is isolation and the distance created through strength and a lack of understanding. So, what JJK is telling you in the entire final arc is that one of the most important things for strength and survival and advancement is human connection.
Yep.
The mission that Yuji is given at the beginning of the series is to not die alone. It's to
Yes.
make for help people, reach out to others, help them, make friends, and make sure that when it's your time to go, you have people who can surround you and smile. Yuji's mission, this is also why like people who are like, oh, Deku needed to be the greatest hero merchants are full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that wasn't the point. It was his goal was more tied to the actual helping of people than necessarily being the greatest hero. And in the case of JJK, Yuji's primary goal isn't to defeat curses. He's defeating curses as a means of helping others, which is why he doesn't like killing the modified humans, but he can do it the second they start asking him to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the turning point. He realized he was not actually helping these people by not killing them. Like, Yuji realized these people are in so much pain that if they survive, the rest of their existence is going to be misery, pain, and suffering. More than likely, Mahito's just going to do some weird shit with him anyway. Maybe turn him into an attaché case to carry a couple other modified human shells in or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that's if you get off light. I have to kill these people. So that's like the beginning company. He realized no matter who he's killing or what he's killing, if he's doing it for the better of others, then that's a sacrifice to his soul and his consciousness he has to be willing to make. It is straight up a tale of being willing to help others, give up part of yourself if necessary to help others. Like think about that part. That's driven home again in the Shinjuku Showdown when Yuta shows up and he's like, I'll become a monster if it means helping. And like I understand that some people really don't like Yuta putting his brain in Gojo's body, But one of the things that Kenjaku had said about him was that, like, oh, he can't be the next Satoru Gojo. And we get like confirmation that he doesn't need to be and won't have to be that.
Mhm.
But that was more of a statement on what they saw about like Yuta's dedication. They were looking at that as a reflection of him as a sorcerer, not the quality of his humanity. Because your humanity and your sorcerer status were constantly separated throughout the series. Which is why, like, Gojo is only Gojo the sorceress and not Gojo the human who likes to get people knickknacks and brought the Kyoto kids a bunch of snacks when they came into town. Like, it's easy, or not snacks, but I think he got them all like little souvenir toys. It's easy to forget that, like, Gojo is actually the most considerate adult that we see out of the Jujutsu Society.
Wait,
Like
okay.
him, what's up?
Do you mind after this? I comment on someone's post in the chat because I just saw.
Oh, go
something.
ahead, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just let you finish your point.
But like, Gojo and Nanami are arguably the most considerate adults in the whole series. Also, I'm just gonna say this. I need to get this off my chest. I've always had like mixed to negative feelings about the majority of Gege's character writing,
Mhm.
and I thought even Panda's Cry was some dog shit, bro. Okay, so
Thank you.
go
Thank you,
ahead.
Andre.
Okay,
That shit was so ass to me.
it was
But
terrible.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Okay,
All right, but
I do want to comment on this. So Cameron Bailey sent in the chat. So I saw a post that said MHA had the sad ending, while JJK had the happy ending. I'm paraphrasing, but Op was basically saying the two endings didn't match their series. What are your thoughts on that? My thoughts on that is that's an ass fucking take. That stinks. Because MHA was never a sad ending. It was a hopeful one. If your takeaway from this ending is that, oh, MHA is so sad because Deku became a 9-to-5er and he's a teacher now and he's never going to be the greatest hero and it's a pity gift. I'm sorry, but you did not understand that ending. The same with JJK. Like, I can kind of get it with JJK because it was lackluster. But for people who love the series, it has a very like it's very happy, right? Very much what people didn't want JJK to end up as, right? Where people thought it was going to have the sad ending, the same way where people thought AOT would have had a very depressing ending, when it really didn't, for the majority of it, right? MHA's ending was especially like it matches the series perfectly, and I don't understand why people are so hard focused on it being depressing because it's not. To be fair, they also said it's a sad ending because the league died and weren't saved again. But they did get saved in a way. Sure,
I
they
think
died, but their legacy still is carrying on. Their impact is still felt.
so. I think calling MHA's ending sad. I actually get where people are coming from that perspective because there's actually so much sacrificed in that ending. There's so much given up because Deku was selfish and like I'm using selfish and like he clung to. Okay, so this is another thing that I want to say about that. Deku was objectively selfish, and losing one for all is the consequence of him being selfish. People get upset because he didn't have a proper plan. I'm going to point out to you something. Deku was a 16-year-old kid. The whole concept of saving Shigaraki, all he knew is that I need to reach this person. I want to sit down and have a conversation with this dude and get him to really think about what's going on and like get him out of that mindset that he's in. The only real Shigaraki himself is not interested in this conversation. So in turn, all Deku can really do is beat his ass until he can't move and then finally get to talk to him. Because as long as he can move and use his quirks, he's just going to destroy everything unless he's getting his ass beat. That's just how it works. Either he's getting his ass beat or he's destroying everything. That was where Shigaraki was. We want to say that Horikoshi should have written him into a different position so that he's not in that mindset. I guess you can feel that way. Like you can feel that way. I think it would require him to like break his character towards the end to make that work. But yeah. So I get considering it sad. And I even understand viewing the tragedy of the league kid. Because here's the thing. Like, as a heads up, when you become a parent, and I didn't know this going into it, so understand this. I didn't know this going into it. When you become a parent, all plots involving failed parenting and like bad things happening to kids hit you harder. They just do. It's a debuff. You're like, oh man, that guy really let his daughter down. I don't want to shoot him in the kneecap. I don't know. And it's like, oh, he didn't make it to the daddy daughter dance. But like you feel some kind of way about it automatically. So I get it because those kids really got let down. Like I was sitting on the toilet watching the clip from the MHA episode and just thinking, damn, it really sucks that he had everything he wanted in Toya, but because he just didn't like recognize it and he took his kid for granted. What's up, J. Michael Holmes? And it sucks. But like the positives in MHA's ending outweigh the negatives.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say, and like people go, oh, it's a superhero story. I don't want to hear. It's far more realistic about what a positive outcome of a war is. Like you're spending years dealing with the social ramifications of why that conflict happened. Because that what they effectively went through, as easy as it is just to see it as a big superhero battle between superheroes and villains, was effectively a civil war. And when you have a civil war, you have to make sure that you get people who were sympathetic to either side, even if they were more moderate or they were just kind of sitting it out. You have to get them to work towards a positive and united future so you don't have another civil war. Because the goal is to not end up in an infinite loop of civil wars. And then you just scream. Or the CIA shows up and makes sure that you end up in an infinite loop of civil wars. By the way, but that's the goal. So like Horikoshi was like, I'm not gonna go full rainbow pie in the sky. And he actually made that clear to us by having Shigaraki be like, you're not getting your pie in the sky ending. And that could be like, you're not getting yours either. And what happened? Nobody got their pie in the sky. It's sadder than a lot of shonen endings. Like I finished Kakaishi. It's a 20-year series, so I feel like I don't feel bad for spoiling it. But like largely positive ending. The downside is that the mom is never going to be in her family's life anymore because she's sitting in a pocket dimension that the son created.
How dare you spoil that ending? I'm about 2 chapters away. I'm joking.
And the son baked the cake, or the son effectively the main boy and the main girl. Also, this is another one of those examples of shown as being like, yeah, they're together, but we for whatever reason will not show them. Because the son is like, yeah, now that I don't have to like hunt demons every night, I'm gonna I guess I want to be an architect because I want to build a castle. And the girl is like, man, you got to be good at math if you want to make a castle. And he's like, well, it doesn't need to be a big one. It just needs to be one big enough for us to live in together. And her
Aw.
response is, I'm going to be a math teacher and I'll teach you how to do the math. That's a confirmation.
That's very similar to Edward and Winry.
Like,
That was
Gives me the
actually
same
cute.
vibes.
like
That's
that
very
direct
cute.
statement of like we are together. No, but like they're together,
Mm-hmm.
and like they had that conversation while he was teaching her how to bake a cake. Like
Aw.
just all around super cute. Oh, hey, you're super cute too.
I really like
So
those approaches to kind of confirming relationships in manga that outright like going the sappy route, right? Like I love my like sappy stories about romance. Like I love romance stories, but I like it when it's very slow, like Uraraka and Deku. Like you could
when she's
argue till
putting
the
the
cows
green
come
tea
home.
crates.
Yeah, exactly. And like just their talk together and then the little panel of them out in the snow. Like you could argue till the cows come home if they're actually together, but the proof is in the pudding. Like you could look at Uraraka's little uh makeshift it's a visor.
Yeah.
Uh yeah. You can look at that and see, oh, they're together.
Also, I'm gonna say it
Unless we
like
get the last.
I do think JJK had like a happy ending largely, but I do, and that's because, but it took kind of I'm gonna say like poorly handling Gojo for the ending to be a happy ending.
Yes.
Thank you.
It
Yes.
it took straight up acting like nobody cares about him, and him
Mm.
dying is a completely like whatever thing.
Yes.
You're just like, oh well, I guess anyway. Uh, for us to have that happy ending. So like I guess like if you look at it from the perspective of Gege was trying, but again, I would like to like if I didn't know Gege hated Gojo, like if I didn't know that, that like really positive spin would be doable. Like I'd be able to believe that positive spin, maybe.
Hmm.
But like Gege saw Meg the Stallion and Usher showing up as Gojo and was like, all right, this is enough. Somebody show up as Yuji.
One is not like the other. I won't lie. Uh, I'm gonna be honest. So, a while back, maybe like a few weeks ago, I argued with someone about like Megami's conclusion, right? Whether Megami will come back, fine. And I argued, yeah, he would. I never bought the like Megami is gonna come back brain dead, take, which I like. Sure, like just going off the bat and the countless limited voids, but I always viewed like a kind of a happy ending for Megami because he kind of deserved it. The same with Yuji. I was more surprised we did time skip to the future with Yuji surrounded by the people that he loves. And not like you can infer that now because he's with Nobara, he's with Megami, he's with Yuta, uh what's his name? Higuruma is surrounded, which I'm happy about because I love Higuruma. And I can also say to Giorno that I did not curse Higuruma's dying because he didn't actually die.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I'm glad he ended up actually surviving because I was really mad that he
Well,
seen
who?
him
Megami or
die.
Higuruma?
Higuruma.
Oh, absolutely.
I
I
I
like
was
can
like, what the
believe that.
fuck,
I
Gege?
can believe that too.
I
Because
was like, okay,
Higuruma
that's enough.
What were you saying, Aponte?
literally, I had the same thing with Higuruma because we just started to met the character, started to you start to liking him, that he got
Hmm.
kind of killed off on that fight, like in the first chapter when it was Sukuna versus all. Like the second or third chapter, he was already dead.
Hmm.
But to myself, at that moment, I knew after Yuta was killed, I thought to myself, okay, he's gonna kill everybody now.
Hmm.
Let have his fun. But yeah, that fight was just too long for me. The Sukuna fight was not
Mm. Yeah, the Shinjuku showdown.
bad. It was more like just redundant. Like it kept like, okay, you know the pattern. He's gonna kill someone or they gonna be successful to do what they were supposed to do. And but the end of the fight, I love the end of the fight of against Sukuna. I got to say, I love the kind of the end because the end what Sukuna as I watched multiple videos about him, but because when he talks when he's talking in Japanese, he's trying to show himself as if that he was somebody from the elite, like someone that he was an aristocrat. The choice of words that the word that the choice of hard words that he has. So the whole thing about Sukuna is that that guy was someone from the I would say from the people. He's like someone from the lowest classes that became strong because of all the stuff about curse energy. That's why that he said that he was like he had to eat his brother in the womb because his mother was never had food to eat almost, and she was pregnant of him. So he was trying to survive. His whole life was about trying to survive. Even his techniques are reflected about food, oven, about slicing and dicing. It's all about food because he was hungry. That was allez, as a young one, he was hungry. So him going back to being dirt, like it's a dirt, like being back to being like a nobody as he died. I think it's fitting. It's kind of ironic because he always saw himself as something bigger than he really was, if you understand what I mean. So yeah, great. Allez, the end of the fight against Sukuna was a good end for me.
So my opinion on the end of the Sakura fight is even earlier when I talked about like how did Gege go from like such a good strong, like what was it 265, 266? Like I liked the final blow. I think it was impactful. However, it was held back for me because of Nobara's return. I think the concept of Nobara return is good, right? We even talked about it like a while back, right, Aniki, where we were like, the only way we can see this happening is if Nobara hits a hidden finger. And it did actually happen. I just don't like how Suguna has been handling Nobara. It just feels lazy. I'm happy for the fans, but I just don't fuck with it.
And we talked about one of the main things that I said is that because he decided to not just admit she's in a coma, it was either she's this character who died for largely shock value in Shibuya, or she's this character that the longer the story goes, the more and more it's going to feel like she's reduced to plot device.
Yes, exactly.
And less like she gets to be a character who wants to do things. And we waited until roughly 5 chapters from the end to bring her back.
Yes. Okay, so
I would have
Kendra.
rather she stay gone. Just
Exactly.
because
Also, this is a very small thing, but if a person is in a coma for like a month, they're not going to be up and walking within 30 minutes.
Yeah. Wait, Kendra, as a question, were you the one who went on timeline and said apologize to Horikoshi for Bakugo?
Yes, that was me.
Okay, because I thought that was very
That
funny. I was
was
like,
me. That
clear
was
as
me.
day.
Because I don't know if you guys remember, because people was going off about Bakugo coming back the way he did, but the way she came back, like it was just nothing, and then she was
Mhm.
gone for like chapters on chapters, and they're like, "Oh no, this is peak. This is peak. This what the fuck? What the fuck is this? Where is this energy from when Bakugo came back after some chapters? You know what I mean? It just was hypocritical, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Nah, y'all gonna have to apologize for Koshi for this
Nobara had like no build up whatsoever. It
at
was
all, at
it's like
all."
okay, she's back now with 5 chapters to go. At least like with Bakugo, like it was built up. Like Ed Shot was doing his surgery, doing the CPR thing to keep the blood flowing. Nobara had nothing. It was like it never confirmed that she was still alive, and she just suddenly back with 5 chapters to go.
Yeah, it's weird because it reminds me, it like the Bar's return gives me the same vibe. It's like in the middle of Bakugo and Nagant, right? Where she kind of fulfilled a similar role to Nagant's. Not in the sense that Nagant came back and was the reason why Sukuna is dead, right? Or one of the reasons. But it felt like she comes back, she does an impactful like hit, and then we move on. And even then, the God's Return was so much better. The same with Bakugo's. Like Bakugo came back, we had this beautiful, like couple of double page spreads. Bakugo immediately gets up, flies towards Deku. They have a little, call back to Heroes Rising. Then he locks in against all for one. It was so cool, and also fit Bakugo's character, added to him, right? Nobara. That didn't hit at all. Like there was not one moment where I was like, "Oh, this is cool." Aside from when she like does a little speech to Yuji,
Yeah,
uh, that was nice. But aside from that, I don't care.
yeah. I was like, I was glad that she came back. But like how she came back, I just had a problem with. It was like, here she is. Damn, y'all were asking for her. Here she go. Like it was whatever.
Here, damn.
You guys said people don't like Bakugo. Yeah, for sure. But even still, Bakugo deserves so much praise. like especially after those chapters.
Well, so the other thing is that, and I'm pretty sure I've been saying this for like 4 years now. A lot of MHA chapters, and like I would say the same is actually applying to some of these JJK chapters lately. Maybe it kind of feels like it, but not exactly. Maybe JJK was always writing kind of with an anime in mind. I'm not sure. But My Hero started really doing these things where like 3 chapters equaled like an idea. 3 chapters really like came together to an idea. And so manga readers, and this is part of the reason why people will say like, hey, like weekly manga, you kind of need to like not knee jerk, and then I'm obviously not naming and shaming, but people like we have
But we
every right
know.
to have super knee jerk reactions where it's still valid. It's like, but it's not, because like all the people who are like resting in piss, Bakugo, you're dead. And then like 2, 3 weeks later, look dumb because they were trying to actively save him. They were pissed. But the thing is that one of the things that people have to accept is that there's a lot of media analysis these days
Hmm.
that is actually people upset because they have egg on their face. And
There
I've
are a
had
few
people
names that there are a few names I can name, but I will not.
Yeah.
because
If you
I
know, you know.
And I remember I was once looking in a Discord because somebody was complaining about some stuff that somebody said in my Discord while they were always talking shit directly about me, but they were acting like my Discord, which was bigger than their Discord by a couple hundred people. Like it was one of those like the views of individual opinions in here do not reflect the like creator of the Discord. Like why are you trying to like take this shit out on me and like people who like talk on the podcast? This is not us.
Mhm.
But I remember like seeing them post something where I'm like, no, like, and I stand by this, by the way. I had been having a conversation with, I think it was like Kez or Kaiser on Twitter, where I was like, the problem that people have with I have with taking media analysts seriously is that somebody will say, "Oh, this isn't going to happen,"
Mhm.
and then you'll say, "Like, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen," and I'm like, "Nope, the stories move past this. It's not going to happen. It's being skipped," and then it's like, okay, well, now that thing happened. So clearly something in your analysis was wrong about this situation.
Yep.
And then like that's when the conversation usually skips to, well, it was trash or it was executed. And it's like, we're not talking about whether or not you think it's good or bad now. Now we're talking about whether your base analysis was looking at the previous text correctly to lead you to have wrong beliefs or inaccurate estimations. Because if you can't look at when you're wrong and try to figure out what was previously in the story that you missed or that you misinterpreted, then your media analysis isn't media analysis, it's just vibes. And I used to have a regular on here that is like the peak embodiment of I say a whole bunch of stuff online. I'll say all this stuff about like, oh, this series is so great, and then they start using it to trash other series, and then they'll like push forth like an idea, right? And then even other people in the same space of them will be like, yeah, bro, I don't think what you're saying is about to happen. Hey, look, the water bottle's open.
I
They'll
think
be
I
like,
know. I think I know who you're talking about.
and then they're like, this story's trash, blah 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 blah. They hop onto another series, rinse, repeat. This series trash. Somebody goes, hey, it's starting to seem like you don't actually like rock with these series. You hop onto like a popular series, read it, claim to make predictions, and then when you're wrong, you blow up, start bashing the author of the series, and then you try to hop on to the next thing that's growing in popularity. It's like these are some pretty like dusty behaviors, bro. So that's kind of normalized online. It's very popular and a common to do this.
Mhm.
And you kind of have to sift through people who are genuinely like frustrated. Or I also will say that if you read like if your time is spent between engaging with canon material and fan fiction is like 70% fanfic, 30% canon, you're probably gonna hit a point where you're gonna end up with some weird takes. And that's, I mean, that's
Actually,
not malicious, but it's definitely gonna lead you to down some weird paths.
actually, you
Because
could.
It's just like I think my whole thing with fanon is a lot of these people, like you got to remember, most of these people you see like kind of tweeting big or being, they are like really online. Like
Yeah.
I don't just mean like really online, they're like almost entirely online. Like their mind is almost entirely there on digital space. So when you're in a digital space, you kind of start to see things a little differently. That's why you see a lot of like performative activism or any of this other weird stuff, like all these kind of like weird values, like people kind of following Twitter trends and being like, nobody likes Horizon Zero Dawn. Meanwhile, Horizon Zero Dawn has sold like 20 million copies or something in real life. So there's
yeah,
always a bit of a disconnect. You got to keep in mind. And they, when you kind of start to see things differently, you start to like, even if you kind of say otherwise, if you engage with fanfic a lot, your perception of the characters is going to be shaped by what you spend the most time with. And more often than not, what they spend the most time with is fan content. Now that would be fine, but like you got to remember the manga is its own thing. And I saw so many things with so many times with MHA specifically, people would get upset when characters would deviate from their established perception of them. I'm like, well, they were never what you thought they were. And it's not up to Horikoshi or any other author to validate something that you just did not take from the text. Like that ties into the media literacy conversation. You have one side who, I mean, it's not even a question of sense. Like they're all the same in this respect. So like it's always going to be a problem, but I think the best you can do is to just take things seriously, right? Just take a series by its own merits, like judge it honestly. Don't fall into this trap where like you're just like going back and forth as like a big contest or whatever. Like you're not even seeing the story as a story, you're just seeing it as what fuel can I use for this fight that I have with all these people, right? Like that's just that's not how you're supposed to read manga. Like you can't enjoy something that way. Just get out of that mindset, and you'll be a lot better off for it. Trust me. So that's
I
my
agree.
soapbox moment.
I would attribute that mindset to a lot of the MCU fans, specifically the ones who grew up on comics and then got obsessed with the MCU. Because my opinion on the MCU Spider-Man is I like him, but I see a lot of people get really upset when they go, well, this isn't how Spider-Man should be. Like my idea of him is
Well, I
this,
mean
this, and that,
that's
which is all
slightly
fair and
different.
good.
That's slightly different because MCU Spider-Man is still cribbing on the comics. It's just not Peter's comics. It's
Yeah.
Miles' comics.
Oh, for sure. But I'm looking at this as like I want this to happen. The fact that it's not happening, I'm really upset with that. And the MCU is trash and etc. Which is fair. That's fine. It's your opinion. Just I don't really vibe with that mentality, especially when it's adaptation. As to me, as long as they are actually good stories and they respect the source material, I don't mind. You
Yeah,
do you. I'll say, hey,
Thomas,
Coyote.
that attitude is
Good,
like pretty
Thomas.
much all that I saw for the final act of My Hero. It was like
Mhm.
he didn't do what I wanted, so it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. Wow, wow, wow. Like if that's your opinion, fair enough. It's just I don't like it when they bite back and try to act like, oh, you're just shitting on my opinion. I'm gonna block you now. Not to name names, but if you know, you know.
Which I do want to say that, like, I want to be a little positive
Hmm.
because I feel like the only thing we were positive about really was Sukuna, and then I, so I'm gonna take the angle of obviously I want good things for like Megumi, for Nobara, for Yuji, for these characters. I'm glad these kids get to be, well, they still don't even necessarily get to be kids, but I'm glad they have like a positive direction going forward. It feels a little unearned, but that's more in the sense that I think the series could have, just like I feel like MHA could have used an extra chapter or two, just because I think there's some confirmations that would have been nice to get a little harder, and just a few more pages can tell a lot. And I think it would have been not. I do think for how influential Gojo was in the series, I think it's fair that a lot of Gojo fans wanted a bit more of a logical conclusion, and the author just like shoving himself in there, being like, "Look, I'm just tired of this dude." Um, 'Cause I think that's just, I don't want to say lazy because manga could bust their ass, but like it, I can't think of a better term for it either. So that, which is the hard part, but it would just be good, you know. Damn, I was trying to be positive, and I'm still like disappointed with some of the stuff. But overall, I think Choso was handled well. I think actually getting a good conclusion for Sukuna, even if it felt like we're attacking all this confirmation of his ideals better now at the end, I think it's really good to show the difference between him and Mahito, and how even with Mahito having the power to change the soul, he had no interest in actually changing who he was, or they were, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it. I don't know. Whereas
So
Sukuna truly, like, even if he lied when and was living for revenge, he wasn't lying when he was about like the victor writes the rules.
mhm.
And if he loses to unity, that does mean that unity is more valuable than isolation. He just
Yes.
hadn't encountered a powerful enough version of unity previously.
Mhm. I do want to ask, because I just saw it in the JJK chat, um, and on the Discord. So if you are a part of Discord, you should join. Coyote, you gave the series an 8 out of 10. How do you feel about this chapter?
Um, in general, I think it's one of those things where I'm one of the less harsh people when it comes to endings. I didn't hate My Hero's ending, and I don't hate JJK's ending. Uh, I think JJK's ending, it is what it is. I look at it as it was just trying to establish that the characters in the future are prepared. They're building up the new Jujutsu Society. That's why they had the Kusakabe chapter, and a lot of people don't like that. But I liked the Kusakabe chapter, and I think that this chapter was very much needed because I like the Sukuna ending because like what Aniki said, but it also shows that Yuji did in the end get through to Sukuna, and then that he does show Sukuna that love is important and that Yuji is breaking the cycle in some way with curses.
Mhm.
It also shows that Sukuna is not, as much as he tries to claim himself as a curse, he is a human at the end of the day. And having Mahito be like the whole self embodiment of reflection and him choosing not to go down that path in general just shows that
Mhm.
he's still human, and as much as we forget it, like he still has a chance to become better. So
Yeah.
I overall enjoy this chapter. I gave JJK 8 out of 10 just because in general I enjoy the characters. Even though we don't get much character interactions, I think JJK has
Mhm.
some of the most striking characters in terms of like you can get attached to or like that you enjoy. Like for example, Toto or fucking like Higuruma and Choso. I think they are very striking and very
Yes.
compelling characters that you don't need much to enjoy.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Like I'd never expected to love Higuruma as much as I do.
Yeah, Higuruma's a
Oh.
fucking goat.
He really is. The same with I'm gonna feel really bad for saying this because I really like his character, so I'm just gonna call him by his title. Shicey Sorcerer.
Yeah.
Or is it Ino?
Yeah,
Okay, so I was right. Okay, I didn't want to say, and be proved wrong. I really like him too. He's pretty cool. You put me on the agenda.
Oh yeah, man. Getting up 3 times to fight Sukuna just to get your ass whooped says something.
It really does. But yeah, I do agree. I do like, because like to me, Sukuna has always been looking for purpose. I think it's always been a part of his character, and seeing him actually realize, yeah, there was another path to take. And if I do get the chance, I'll take it. Which does fall in line with the whole idea of rebirths, because I think that's one of the themes of JJK.
Yeah.
I do think there is reincarnation in JJK for sure. And I'm not mad that we won't get like a part two. I do think JJK was always going to end as a completed manga.
If anything, JJK has more grounds for a part 2 than most series, I'd argue.
I just I don't really see there being another threat. Whereas with My Hero, there's always going to be one. But if it does get a part two, I wouldn't be mad because I would like the idea of seeing Gege try his hand and see how much he has changed.
I would not be opposed to a part 2. I just think that Gege doesn't have that in mind. I feel like, I mean, people have talked about this, like, oh, it kind of seems like MHA and JJK are getting sequels. My opinion on both is that the endings are not necessarily planned with the idea of I'm going to launch into full-on sequel. They're designed with the idea, okay, there's going to be more stuff after this. I think there's going to be light novels for both. I think MHA is definitely getting another movie, or two, because Bones like doing original content separate from the manga. Volume 42, like I keep telling people, you're not truly appreciating how much is going to change in volume 42. Because like right now we are like 60 pages short of what the minimum is going to have to be. So, and I think he's going to go a little over that for something like 200, 210. So probably going to be a lot there. And anyway, as far as JJK goes, it's not impossible either. Like, I just don't read the ending and feel like, oh man, this is gearing up for like a whole new ride. Nope. I think it's possible they go back to them, but for right now, they just want to.
I actually don't think they go back to Yuji in them if we do get a part 2.
Oh, you think it follows somebody else?
Yeah, I think if we're gonna go for JJK part 2, we gotta go Sukuna's reincarnation, man.
It'd be interesting seeing the route he takes and how he's kind of going. What was the concept? It going north and south?
Yeah,
went
he's
north.
going north.
Yeah.
And you obviously know that's gonna take like a long while for him to
Oh my god!
reincarnate.
What if reincarnation of Sukuna is best friends with Gojo's reincarnation? Oh, it's so
Hey
cute.
man, that could be peak.
There is also something very
Really cute.
strange that happens last chapter with Takeba. He's talking to
Yeah.
somebody, and you don't see what their face is, but they have like the same body structure and hairstyle as Kenjaku. Or I mean, it's Geto.
Oh, you mean Takeba?
Yeah, Takeba.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he, like, you don't see this character's face, and it's kind of weird, and like you're kind of left wondering, well, who are they exactly? So it's kind of that left to interpretation thing.
Actually,
Yeah, I've seen
I
multiple
do.
theories on that. Oh, you go, Thomas.
Yeah, the hair. It's straight up. It's straight up Gesho. Like it looks like him. I don't know why Gege would hide his face. We're not confirmed. Also, he's just talking about like his comedy. With like I said, lots of coarse jokes are bad, but no sex stuff. Even Pion Maru have potty jokes. They're the same hot. They're talking about the joke. It feels like a Jaku. Maybe his will carried on as the form of comedy. They're going to be stand-up comedians.
Takeba revived his favorite comedian.
What if that's part two? It's just talking about. It'd be peak, actually. That's exactly what me and Roboko tries to be.
All right, I definitely missed something when my daughter had my headphones because I don't know exactly what you guys were saying. Then I heard that's what me and Roboco tries to be.
Oh, the like
Uh,
actually being funny and try to be
Oh,
goofy gaffs. It would be
yeah.
Takaba. We're talking about part two possibility.
So I'm gonna ask a question about Takaba. Did he die because he thought dying at the end of his show was funny?
I don't know. Because he's alive and well.
Because
Possibly.
like he's obviously like in the funeral garb and stuff, and like Kinjaku's walking up on him when Yuta gets clapped over there, but nobody acknowledges
Mhm.
Takaba dying. So like he could be alive. He could also be putting on a permanent afterlife comedy club show. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm pretty sure he's alive. I think there was
Yeah.
a panel of him getting dragged and he had an eye open or something. So I think that was just more for like
Just for
he
laughs.
was at rest, like he had his perfect show
Mhm.
and he was just willing to just chill.
Yeah. Or maybe Kenjaku is still alive and he thought that's funny. So he's keeping her alive.
Like, because I also want to have that panel with what clearly looks to be Kenjaku and him hanging out in the previous chapter. I want that to make sense,
Mhm.
but we just breezed past that. That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
like that's a weird Easter egg, just like throw in there, like, haha.
He
Like
forces
I
all his assistants to take on Kenjaku's looks.
like I can accept that,
Huh.
Megumi Fushiguro and was like able to say, all right, Culling Games be over because of the Tengen pieces that he had inside of him. I guess, like, even though the Culling Games were technically not supposed to allow you to be able to just make a rule that ended the game, because you weren't supposed to make rules that stopped the games from actually being played. But like, whatever. I'll bite that, sure, because like Kenjaku bullied the little Kugane into doing something they didn't want to do anyway during the games. But I do kind of also hate that like the Culling Games like like actually being wrapped wasn't touched on. Now that I think about it, because like whole towns were separated from the rest of society, and that's a weird plot point to not just like be like, yeah, people can go back to Tokyo now.
oh yeah,
um,
I think it's also weird. I think we've touched on this before, but Kenjaku being Yuji's mother,
yeah,
that
Did he
doesn't
ever
go
learn about
anywhere.
that? I can't
Nah, I
I
take
don't
remember.
back
think so.
shots.
That's weird because there's this whole chapter, and it's actually really cool, where Kenjaku goes out of his way to guide Yuji's friends
From the first
away
chapter,
from the
yeah.
culling games. And it's
And the,
really interesting because it's like, oh, maybe he does have some kind of affection for him. Doesn't really go into that. And it's like,
Yeah, because
huh,
Kenjaku thanked her for being Yuji's friend.
yeah.
and yet, to our knowledge, Yuji does not know who came out to Ken Jesse.
Oh, not that.
Oh God.
And I'd also like to point out that like Megumi knows his dad is dead. He still doesn't know he met him from what we know.
Yeah.
Like he still doesn't know that was Toji. That like
That's the
I
beauty
think
of history.
I feel like he kind of infer
I call that was
like
beautiful.
with the interaction, like, oh, this guy has a connection to me, but nothing else.
Get rid of
It would
get
have
rid
been
of
really funny if Gojo included, yeah, Kajaku's your mom, or if, but I don't think they know. He knows.
get rid of Eric he forgot. We need to replace with Gege forgot.
Yeah.
It's like it's just weird that that wasn't talked about.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm hoping we get like, which yeah, that's another thing. I don't think Kenjaku spoke to Yuji after Shibuya. I don't think they have a single interaction after that. Like, can you guys think of a single interaction between Kenjaku and Yuji
I
after
thought
Shibuya?
no, I think they already talked at Shibuya. I don't think
Yeah.
they've ever chatted afterwards, unless I'm forgetting.
No,
Coyote, did they?
no.
Wait, so he took back shots for nothing. He couldn't even talk to his own
Well,
child?
He
so
doesn't care
here,
about Yuji. He said that himself. That was just
so
for shits and giggles.
like, the thing is that Yuji is kind of the embodiment of at least two clans
Yeah.
because he's got a body on par with a heavily restricted user. So he has something of the
UGA is a mob.
Zennies. He's got blood manipulation from the Kamo clan, and he has Shrine, which a lot like fills the gap for um I guess you could argue that maybe Shrine was secretly a Gojo clan technique this entire time. We just never had it addressed. But I'd also like to point out that Yuji as a vessel was just allowed to eat things to gain powers. So, and we know
There's
that Yuta is a distant relative of Gojo. So, like, Yuji technically has some of the powers of Rika if he's allowed to just ingest cursed wounds and stuff like that. I don't know. The dude's like the perfect experiment in jujutsu, but it's not relevant to his plot. So I
I so this isn't me shitting on JJK when I say this. I just want to get that
It's
across
all good.
there.
Shit on whatever you want. I shit on my hero. I shit on
No,
Attack on
fair,
Titan.
fair. So I still have the belief that JJK is a series that tries so badly to be like MHA and Bleach. And not to say that's a bad thing, right? Like inspiration is a great thing, right? Homages is a great thing. As much as people online try to convince you that it's bad, it's not bad. But there's a lot in JJK that feels like, yeah, Horikoshi and Kubo did this. I want to do the same thing. I want to put my own spin on it. However, I do feel like a lot of times it falls flat on his face. Uh, we end up with a situation where the complaints that people had for Bleach, like for example, Ichigo being everything, right? Like he is just a hot pot of all the races. Uh, does can be attributed to JJK. Uh, with at least Yuji, and how Kajaku planned his birth and planned him to be a very important for his agenda, for what he wanted to do. The same way Ichigo. Uh, I just don't think he does it as well as Kubo did with Ichigo. Um, and if people like the mystery, if they like to fill in the gaps, good for them. At least they have that. It's just I've never really got it. It's very confusing. And this isn't me. Like I said, I don't want to like say it's bad, because maybe I'm just looking at it through a different lens. I'm not a story
like
writer, as you can see, as you can
no,
tell.
no, like that was actually something that I said that Yuji had very clear inspirations from Ichigo, and I think it was in like Brago's Discord because I was talking about like how I was like, look, there's actual easy slam dunk slander for JJK, like boom, and then like I outlined how we were clearly setting up Yuji to get powers from the other clans and be tied to like multiple things, and if we
Mhm.
decided to emphasize positive energy as a natural source more, that undoubtedly like that would come into play with him and all this other stuff. Like for all intents and purposes, if Gege really wanted to, he could have given Yuji like a holy fist. He could have made it work because like one of the things, and I don't know why it never got touched on. It also makes me question why Yuji's pinky didn't grow back, but whatever. But if you remember when Yuji first lost Sukuna out of his body, there's that part where like Sukuna tries to slash him up a bunch, and he starts healing as he's like rampaging. And so it's like Yuji was like subconsciously using RTC, which begs the question: was there like a binding vow that stopped his pinky from growing back when he was healing from all those cuts? Because otherwise, it doesn't make sense that he didn't just heal his
Grow
pinky
back.
back like somebody was asking earlier. Maybe he did heal it back and he just cut off two of them and fed both of them to Rika.
I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah, I think I like that better than like Gege actively drawing him healing and just not realizing that his finger would grow back if he
I
had auto regen at that
yeah.
time.
Because for the longest time, I viewed that panel of him walking through as him just tanking it. But
No,
it makes
no.
more sense.
If you read the next chapter, you can actually see that a lot of those cuts are already like turning into scars and fading.
Yeah, I overlooked that. I thought he just got healed by what's her name? Shoko.
Shoko wasn't on site for that fight though.
hmm I
Shoko's a fraud, bro. Don't ever account for Shoko doing anything.
Poor Shoko though. She
So yeah,
deserves
it's
better.
just so many weird little things like that. Just, but like I said, as much as people say like, oh, Dagon didn't matter, I always looked at Dagon as like a giant red flag on how stuff was going to be handled because he was one of the more interesting curses because he just kind of was like vibing in the background in like complete contrast to what the other disaster curses were doing.
hmm
So I was hoping for a lot more out of him. And like we kind of got the curse's pride from him, but we didn't get a lot of characterization. Also, I just have to say it. Um, Hidden inventory and Shibuya had two different rules, or had different rules for heavily restricted people inside of a domain than the ones we got later in the series. And it's the only what looks to be a retcon in the entire series as far as the power system goes that I can think of. Because if you remember, the curse girl thing was capable of recognizing and trapping what's his name, Toji in the domain. And his anti sure hit technique was just moving his arm so fast he cut off all the attacks with the Spear of Destiny. From what Dagon says, he could have used the sure hit technique on Maki and opted not to because he considered her so weak. So we went from both of them showcasing being able to be viable targets within domains to Maki has no curse energy and therefore she is not a viable target inside of a domain.
I'm pretty sure that was just made to counter Naoya's domain.
Yeah.
Because
And
Naoya's
I'm like,
domain was fucking busted.
so I was like, that's a
Wow. Wait, let me look this up.
so yeah, that was which I mean, yeah, Nami's domain was possibly the most busted domain we saw, actually. Like
I
it's
don't
as
remember
busted as
his
a
domain. Let me look this up.
basically if you moved and your cells did not perfectly match the frame rate across your entire body, you like just splintered apart. Hold on.
Oh, was it the oh when he was like as the curse?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, now I remember. I was like, did we see that prior?
Yeah, Time Cell Moon Palace.
Ah. The domains can't miss attack are lines of film that enforce the 20 frames per second rules of projection sorcery on a cellular level. And that's really cool. That's such a cool uh concept.
Yeah, if only Naoya wasn't such a dick, he could have had that as a human and joined against the Sukuna fight.
Honestly. The Gege would have found another way to fuck him over.
Nah, he loves Naoya. I don't even know if I'm even saying his name right.
Naoya. I'm pretty sure it's just Naoya.
Who knows, gang?
The members of the Kukuru unit hated Naoya. He received 0 stars in a review of the Hay and was called Poop Scum. Okay, that's interesting.
The more you know.
Thank you for telling us that. Gege, volume 17 as an extra. But yeah. Let me see.
What's this about you being able to relate to being raw dogged for the love of the game?
I was
Thomas?
about to say that was insane that you put that into the chat. That is not true.
I mean, I didn't write that. Someone else did.
No one wrote that. You attributed me to Kenjaku. You're the one who said that.
Are you Kinjaku?
No, I'm not. I hate Kenjaku. I think Kenjaku
But you love
is
the
probably
back
my
shots,
least
right?
favorite character. No, this is insane. You lie.
I haven't lied about a single thing since I got here.
That's crazy. But no. Uh, I guess there's a lot that we talked about JJK. Is there anything people want to talk about, like in terms of show and jump?
Like
Undead Unluck, Undead Unluck, you had me worried for a couple weeks, but this week seems to be back on track. Yeah, I was kind of worried. I knew he could. Yeah, I knew Tozuka could do things pretty like I was kind of hoping for another arc before the end, but I get with Andy coming back how he's doing things, and if I'm being honest, it's probably gonna end up better this way because like just the pressure is on. Basically, like it was looking for a couple weeks there. We weren't sure if there were gonna be the Master Rule fights. But now this week's chapter showing those Master Rule fights are happening. So probably
Praise
another
Jesus.
probably another 20-ish chapters until the end, but we should be in good shape. It's probably got until like a little after the next rotation of new Jump manga come in, and then they'll probably get slotted out. But
I
yeah,
need to catch
People
up
were
on
worried it
on
was
that
getting
look.
canceled or something.
Oh, I've seen those. I saw like a big article talk about like, oh, it's gonna get canceled because XYZ. I didn't read it because I
Wait.
didn't want to get spoiled.
The way they handled those chapters, it was a little scary. I'm not gonna lie. Because
Oh,
like the way that the last two chapters for Yu were done, it was done in a way that like, because here's the other thing, right? Is that the Japanese fandom actually reacted to that with fears of cancellation. So like, there's actually a chance that like Tosuka put the pieces in there, and then Japanese fans were like, "Hold up, are you about to force this to end early?" And Jump saw that and was like, "Oh, okay, we do actually have a fandom for this series, even if we're not getting like sales, we're getting pushed for this.
yeah.
We don't want to like upset people and push them away from the magazine. All right, we'll add some extra time here, Tozuka." That's what it kind of feels like because those two chapters without this chapter, there's a lot of series that do stuff like that, and it's like
Wait, so as
off
a
to the races to finish
question,
it.
because I'm not caught up, I still need to, because I still think Undead Luck has the best consistency of any jump manga. But is it more in the case of like rushing, like some plot
The
points
last
being
two
like
chapters were so
yours?
the best way to explain it is like they were fine length chapters because of what was done with it. Like, it'll only make sense once you read it. Because of how it was done, it was the kind of thing that it was the kind of narrative choice you could make to skip a lot of stuff and have it technically fit within the framework of the story you made. But in the doing so, you'd be like rushing to get to the finish line. And so Japan protest, Genie, you need to be careful. But like this chapter feels like it, in MHA terms,
I just
that's
saw
hard to do.
that.
Oh, it took the pacing from, let's say, PLW pacing to, let's say, final exams arc in season 2, but the manga version type pacing.
Oh gosh.
So it
Okay,
was
maybe
like,
he was right. You all I had to do was explain it in MHA terms.
yeah, so that's why people kind of freaked out because it was like, wait, what? Hold on.
Okay, that is
And then,
worrisome.
and then like this chapter like dropped it, like it was like we all of a sudden it was like Deku was like an overdrive. Oh, I'm kidding, first gear, first gear. That's what this chapter fits. So it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, sucks.
So it was just real. It was like peak touch and go, like the most, like the easiest embodiment of that.
Mhm.
I don't know. This week I really like this week's Kagurabachi,
Oh yeah.
Shinobi Undercover, and Ultimate Exodus Kyoshi. I really liked all those chapters this week.
I feel like a fraud because I was gonna catch up on all these manga, and then Black Myth Wukong came out, and I was more focused on that than
Hey,
anything else.
Thomas.
Yes.
You can read Kagurabachi with me. I'm starting this week, man.
Oh shit. Okay.
Me and you
That's
read
okay.
Kagurabachi. We can push agenda together. You push your agenda as I read, and I push my agenda. We'll create new
I'm down.
agenda that people haven't seen.
I don't know, man. Depending on what kind of agendas you make, the Fujoshis might have beat you to it.
Oh God.
But I'm not gonna complain though, because like I started a second playthrough on Baldur's Gate 3, and I technically never even finished beating the first one.
I haven't gone past Act 1 because I got stuck. There was like this area I got caught in a trap, like you fall down to the second like the underground layer.
Mhm.
And I got immediately jumped by multiple people, and I'm kind of heart sucks. I may restart.
Do you
Wait.
not have backup saves?
I don't know. I have to check it out. I was
You'll
like, you
have
know what?
backup
Fuck it.
saves. It auto saves a lot.
So you need to understand something about me. I don't believe save scumming is scumming. So you gotta adopt that mindset, Thomas. I
Because
don't.
I'm hard-headed, like I don't want to
Bro,
go back in time.
bro, I got 6 saves of metaphor, like at different states of the game that I'm loading up for the main game.
And that's just the
Okay,
demo
Wukong.
you got into that with.
No, like it lets you carry over data.
Oh, yeah, I know, but like you said that like but you got save increments for the demo already. So
Yeah, I mean that's
But Thomas, what level were you when you left off?
I don't remember. It's been so long. Because I
Yes.
remember I got up to where you meet like the devil for the first time, and then I went to
Oh,
another
that's early
area.
as fuck.
Yeah, early as fuck. Yeah. I was like
Oh, were
so.
you?
Hmm?
So you went to the Goblin camp, hung out with Princess Gut or
Yeah,
Priestess Gut, went into the back room, found the big ogre, killed
yeah,
her, then went down the ladder,
I believe so. Yes.
and then found the old Selûnite outpost in the Underdark. That's where you are.
Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, I vaguely recall all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like Baldur's Gate, so I'm more than willing just to just.
I
to
mean the
try
fun
it.
thing with that game though is like it is truly every playthrough is
It's
guaranteed
different.
to be different.
Yes,
Dude,
I
so
fuck with
okay.
that.
So yesterday, I was in the Goblin Village, and keep in mind that like my first playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3, or on my first account, I spent I think like 30 to 40 hours in the first act alone, probably more. I found something I hadn't done. I went down a well in the Goblin Village and found a whole section of shit to do.
I think I had 160 hours in that game total. It's freaking long. Like, and when you get to
Okay.
Act 3, like I do wish they'd kind of added the upper city area, but then I kind of look at Act 3 again, and it's like, man, that thing is already huge. Like
My
it takes
stance on it is like if they had added the upper city, they would have had to raise the level cap. Because like I
yeah.
hit level 12 before finishing half the stuff I wanted to do in the upper city in my first playthrough.
I mean, like upper
what's the
city
level cap?
content takes up more than half of the game already.
Like,
So it's like, I mean, Act 3 content, I mean.
yeah,
So you kind of have enough. I would have liked to have seen the location of the upper city, like get more of that environment, sure. Budget wise, and even with what they had to do, I'm completely okay with keeping just the lower city. Like sometimes less is more. So
honestly, Baldur's Gate 3 might be the first game I download mods for if if there's a level cap remove mod. Because man, the potential they had if they would have let us go all the way up to level 20, I don't care if we end up cracked. Like anything you do for XP in that game is permanent. So it's not like any mobs respawn. So if you go for a genocide run, then you deserve to have all the XP you get. Because you're probably gonna have to kill a lot of allies to get there. Yes, you're a baby.
I really so like when I first started playing, I was like, oh, there's a bunch of like NPCs you can befriend, etc. Right? I like the concept of you start off the main people that you'll most likely have is there from the get-go, right? And I
Mhm.
remember coming across Shadowheart. I was like, yeah, this is the NPC I want by my side. Like I love her character so far.
Mm.
Not the biggest fan of the other girl. I forget her name, but like she's trapped in like the cage. Uh,
Lae'zel.
yeah, Lae'zel. I'm not the biggest fan of her, but I know a lot of people fuck with her.
Shadowheart is the most romanced. Look at
That makes
those
sense.
teeth. Yeah. You got all those teeth coming
But
in.
yeah, it's a fantastic game. But like I remember, I was like, I have to finish like Elden Ring. I haven't finished that yet because I got stuck, hard stuck on what's his name, the Radon, uh, because I was going like as a like a cases, a spike cases run, uh, very much a strength build type of guy. So it took me like maybe 65 tries just to take him down.
I mean, I'm in the middle of Shin Megami Tensei 5 now, and it's funny because playing the metaphor demo, like people are like, "Ah, man, this is just Persona again." I'm like, "Nah, dude, this is SMT." It's just like they just like really personified it so that it'd be accessible for people. So, uh,
Man, I'm looking
Although
at
I played
like
a Metaphors demo, I'm really into the world building so far.
it's
Ooh.
great.
it
I've
sounds really cool.
it's like there's a metafictional aspect to it, but like where you cut off in the demo is like seems like barely 5% of the whole game. There's like they play this trailer at the end. There's like so many more areas and obviously more party members, but like you don't even get to like the actual journey part of the game yet in the demo. You're just like dealing with stuff in the main city. And they show port towns, they show forests, they show villages and other places. So like you're gonna be exploring all this. And since the game is all about uh like you're basically a political candidate to be king. So the goal is to be number one in popularity and chosen as the next king. So that really interests me, especially seeing as like it's like a similar concept to social link's confidants, but like there's a like instantly you have stakes here, like evidently. Whereas in Persona, it kind of takes a while to get the full picture. Right here, like you know exactly what's at stake. You know how to go for it. And that really intrigues me. And
Like the most exciting thing is the protagonist actually talks.
yes, I'm hoping they do that for P6.
Oh, as a Pokemon fan, y'all are eating. I did see I can't believe you done this saying that he hasn't gone past Market. Have you explored more? Because I remember I got hard stuck on Market for the longest time. And then I remember I got to the bridge, I looked down, realized there was a whole path. So like the game opens up if you go that way. You could explore everywhere, gain the levels. Uh and then go back to market and just demolish him. I get it. Elden Ring is not for everyone. Very much the Soulsborne franchise is very. If you like the grind, if you like the pain, if you don't mind destroying your controller, uh, you should still continue because that's one of the reasons why I want more people to play Wukong. Not that it's Soulsborne as core because it's not. It's very God of War, but it's just the once you beat a boss, because every boss is just disrespectful. Especially last one, which I won't spoil much about. But I remember beating like a few of the bosses that took me like so long. It's so satisfying. That is my cue to tell people play Black Myth Wukong.
No.
Also, I do want to address the question of whether or not Ichi the Witch will get to stick around. I think it has some potential, and I don't mean this in like a Debbie Downer kind of way. I don't think it's shown enough yet to make it different. Which I mean, being the same can be safe and it can sometimes lead to results. But and this will sound like a nothing burger answer, but it's going to come down to like the next 3 to 4 chapters more than anything else, because that's going to be what closes out the first volume. Like right now, Ichi the Witch is, I think the main character is interesting enough, and I think Dolores is fun, but I don't know if they've given us anything that will actually sustain a series long term, especially since it's currently one of those, this is the perfect recipe to just turn into harem anime drivel. So we'll see. It hasn't necessarily said it's gonna go that way yet. It's just I wouldn't be surprised if it did. And that's
I've been
so
hearing New A's Exorcist does the harem shit as kind of sticking around because of that.
I've been reading New Age. It kind of does do that. And like there's cool moments where like people are genuinely like growing and like trying to, but it's one of the, but New Age is a series that if it just like got canceled and had to do like 7 chapters to wrap it up, I wouldn't be surprised either. Like, I think Jump is at this really weird juncture where they don't have a lot of like star power sitting in the magazine currently. Undead Unluck, as good as it is, it's not. There's a very painful. There's a reason why the streets are calling it unmoved, unselling.
Oh God, I hate that so much. I hate that trend of calling it because it kind of is true.
And I can't argue with the sales data. It's not selling that well, so it's like, yeah, shut up.
It ain't on moving though.
I
I mean,
think
like,
They just mean
Jumper.
it hasn't moved off the shelves.
Oh, okay. I thought they meant like just the impact, like how we feel about it.
I mean, Jumper in a
I mean, that makes
weird
sense.
place now because they have just essentially gone through losing the big three again.
Yeah, no,
Like,
they're losing cash cows left and right here.
yeah, they just lost My Hero. They just lost JJK. They got like One Piece and
They
Tiger
lost
Rock.
K and Y. They lost Haikyuu.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing with MHA and JJK. They're actually bigger than Bleach was back in the day, both of them. So arguably you kind of had a bigger boost from both those series just looking at sales.
Gachi Akuta is not Shonen Jump.
Yeah.
I just don't feel bad for Shonen Jump after how they've been treating all the series that they axed. Like you
Yeah.
kind of just fucked yourself over, because you know they're still pissing their pants about like, oh, we're not going to be still popular.
Yeah, no, they're trying to get their. So one of the things that the anime approach that they're taking with their series, and like the Elusive Samurai, I've been seeing people posting clips of it. That might be taking off. Well, the problem with Red Hood was that it got popular for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It got popular because somebody saw a character's ass in a scan, got excited, and then
Like
that
character.
character turned into a little girl, and
Yeah.
that ruined it for the non-weirdos. Just did. Um, and with some of the other, well, Fabricant 100, if that's the one that I'm thinking of, is hilarious because it actually made a translator like give up mid chapter. But the
I thought that was
so
Cypher Academy.
yeah, that one. Sorry. Uh, Phantom Seer, I think they should have just let stick around because the problem with Shonen Jump is that when you are the magazine that has produced Hunter x Hunter, My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, Jujutsu Kaisen, K and Y, you forget what you actually are
Yes.
and what your normal goals are supposed to be.
Hmm.
Um, and what I mean by that is that if you have a book that's selling, 20, 30K a volume, that's still decently successful as long as you're not overprinting.
Absolutely.
If you're overprinting, yeah, it's going to be an issue. So, but when you see like, oh, well, JJK dropped a couple million, and like the other thing is that these anime booms, part of it is coming down to how high quality the anime is and what crazy big moments you can fit into the first, 26 episodes and all this other stuff. But if you're coin flipping production on like who gets what, if you're and like to a certain degree, I think it's actually kind of insane that Shonen Jump hasn't created its own animation studio.
Yes.
Just kind of feels like an oversight on their part,
To be honest,
but it's
there's a
probably
lot
for the
of
better.
things that feel like an oversight on their part. Like they constantly make a lot of really stupid decisions, and it's refreshing seeing them like kind of blame the audience for their shortcomings. Like you're the one who got yourself into this mess. You can't keep blaming people. At some point, you have to just face the music, you know?
Because why were we getting an Exorcist series every 4 or 5 months?
Yes, exactly.
Because KNY and
That's
JJK pop exploded.
yeah. And the last batch of manga that just came in, that's actually the last one approved by the previous editor who was like really heavy on the Exorcist stuff. I'm interested in what this new editor does because this new editor seems a lot more into like kind of the slice of life, romance, some of the more variety stuff, which, jump from like I think '08 to 2015, 16 was really good at. And there was a lot of variety. After that, it's kind of pigeonholed itself to kind of more like spiritual exorcist series, battle stuff. I'm like, maybe kind of edge away from that a little. So
Yeah.
like, and they know that One Piece is going to be ending end of the decade. Like they understand this. So I think the priority for them is to just reinvent. Like I think well, not necessarily reinvent. It's to lay a foundation for a magazine that's going to exist past One Piece. Now, I'm still of the opinion that once One Piece ends, you're going to see physical jump. You're going to see physical jump cease to exist. I think it's going to move digital. Um,
Yeah,
I
I could see it going either purely digital or less retail, more you have to pre-order these jump volumes directly from manufacturer type thing, just so they stop having leaks every fucking week.
I mean, like this is like costing them a fair bit of money because like this is like breaching a copyright law internationally. They got the authorities involved on this shit. Right? They go after scan groups. Like this is a serious matter. So like that's a lot of money that they're kind of spending. So, and also this is why I say like when people are like, ah man, Jump don't care about overseas audiences. They don't care. It's all Japanese for them. Like, well, Japan is still the primary audience, but it's kind of
If
a
the
little.
overseas audience is actively spoiling and ruining the experience for Japan, it still
Yeah.
matters.
Yes, exactly. And that also matters with stuff like anime. The main value of MHA for them, I'm going to tell you this, past like standard volume sales in Japan and how high they are, it's the overseas appeal. That is that is the gateway for global audiences to come in and consume their series. So anybody who says like I don't care about overseas audiences, you are not really getting it. Like even if they make you think that oh they don't care, trust me they care because whatever makes them money makes them money. And
One of the things that was talked about is how they were like, wait, Kagurabachi got really popular overseas, and people are creating like realistic anime looking screenshots, even though it doesn't have an anime and blah 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 blah. Like people saw like, oh, we can have pull around the world. And the idea that none of them would care to me is will always sound silly because it's like if I told you you can make money in one country or make money in 50, most people are gonna say, yeah, I'll make money in 50. What I gotta do to make money in 50? From there. I think the Japanese bit like they'll still want to do their cultural template. Like, yes, they're not gonna do and hell they might, but generally speaking, you're not getting spaghetti westerns out of Japanese manga.
Well, for
But
sure, I can believe that.
like generally you're not gonna get a spaghetti western out of manga. But they're still gonna want any audience that is willing to spend money on their product to buy their product. And anyone telling you otherwise, you can kind of just ignore them about that kind of stuff. Just why they
Yeah.
need to figure out what's going on with all their ideas and how many flops they've had. Hi. And
The
also
thing about
maybe
it,
relax on the Exorcist series.
that's for sure, because I remember when the first content that I had with JJK, I couldn't pass through the 510 chapters because for me it was just a new exorcist story. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was getting tired of it. Not really exorcist story, but more like demon chasing story, like going against demons. It can be an exorcist, it can be anything, but just going against demons. And I was getting tired of it. After reading, that's more like when Knox told me to read past to the 30s. That's when I met the character. I forgot. I can't remember names when I'm talking to them, and when I'm not talking about them, I remember their name. The Japanese Swedish guy in JJK, Nanami. Nanami. When I met the character Nanami, this is how I got hooked by the series. But yeah, the thing that's really interesting to me is that right now they have like a program. These media they're asking for non-Japanese artists and scenarists to work with them. I know some of them that are working that works with them and are working for them too. And it is interesting that right now Japan is trying to invest in the out of Japan stories right now. They're trying to because they see that the mix. I think they see the consequences of manga in the world right now, story wise, how it impacts the people outside, and we might see in maybe 5 years a lot more different stories the catalog of Challenger might be really different in 5 years. I really think so because the stories that these people, because people from from different countries, like I can talk about Europe, the French speaking people, there is a lot of people with immigrants background that are making manga, and they use that in their stories too. So I can't wait to see what's happening in the 5 years, how the challenger will be like. Maybe they will try to separate it. I don't know how they will to the organization about how they'll try to sell this story. But I'm curious because literally, one of my boys worked on one shot called Skin and Bones, Valentin server, but I couldn't read it myself here in Belgium because it was only on Viz Media for you guys. It was only readable for you guys, Americans. So it was quite sad for me too. I couldn't have an example to read it, but still, yeah. The future for manga of storytelling in comics form will be different in 5 years. I can't wait to experience this. Did I say something wrong?
Oh no, 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 no. And no, I'm not reading Children X. I can't believe you done this. No. Oh, hold on.
Mhm. Oh. So, Joseph Coyote, tell
Hmm?
me what was the last series that you loved that in the Shonen Jump? For
In Shonen Jump,
mhm,
fucking, I don't even know much Shonen series. I don't read. I'm one of those people that doesn't read much manga at a time. So
mhm,
I only keep up with JJK and Dragon Ball. Everything else
mhm,
I'll somewhat keep up with. But those are the
mhm,
main two series I'm with. So JJK
mhm,
just ended. So the only series right now I have for Shonen Jump, if
mhm,
I don't even know if Dragon Ball counts, is Dragon Ball Super.
mhm.
And that one's still waiting to
Uh,
come back after a whole fucking year, man.
yeah, I stopped reading Dragon Ball for I couldn't care less about the plot because literally I was getting tired of the story. So it feels so forced right now. So yeah, for me I couldn't care less. Allez. And you, Joseph,
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
what which Shonen Jump stories are you reading right now?
Oh,
Uh,
Kagurabachi, Ichi the Witch, Shinobi Undercover, and Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi, which what really appeals to me about Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi is that it's more of a comedy. Basically like in tone, I think it's more like Mob Psycho, but I've seen other people describe it as Mashle with Exorcist, which is not an unfair comparison.
mhm. Okay. Because right now I was working while listening to you all guys and talk sometime. I'm just trying to get on the live right now to see a little bit of the chat because I couldn't say hello. Uh, because the chat always is there for us.
Mhm.
Uh, Smash. Oh, where are we? Where the live is not presented on it. Oh, now I'm seeing.
I
So,
will say I'm so far behind on Jump manga. Um,
yes.
because like the only times I'll ever like read it is if a chapter of the big ones come out, like JJK. Aside from that, I haven't read anything this week. I'm excited for the new Black Clover chapters that are coming out, where it goes 61 pages. 61, right? I'm pretty sure. Um, so 3 chapters, which I'm really pumped for. I also saw someone in the chat mention like would Black Clover have a better ending than My Hero JJK? I think it was Stretch who said that. And me personally, I don't think so.
Mhm.
Considering like if I remember someone coined this phrase, but like Jump Giga is where series go to die. Um
I
my
will say,
copium, my
as
hope is
glad
it
as I
would
am
happen.
for Tabata's health,
Yes.
the the release schedule has like really hampered the excitement going into
Yes,
this final
absolutely.
stretch. It's just because it's like 3 months for 2 chapters is it you forget about it.
Yeah, which is kind of a shame. Like Black Clover should never. I feel okay. So let me rant a bit. So I feel like if Black Clover got its dues, if Period didn't fuck it over, if Jump actually properly marketed it, Black Clover, even if it wasn't the most perfect series, would have been up there, right? it would have been a competitor alongside JJK and My Hero. And of course, people like to
It
believe it was, but it didn't really get its fair shine, right? I
Black
think because
Clover was like
no
popping
no
in 2015,
but
2014.
not
Like
yeah,
it was
when it
one of
anymore.
the
came
top
out,
ones.
when it came out, Black Clover was the answer that at every the Shonen Jump, the anime platforms tried to push it as the next one.
Oh no, for
I
sure.
remember this.
But that
I
fizzled
remember this
out.
vividly.
Yeah, it fizzled hard.
That's what I mean. Like
Yes,
it,
for sure.
like if they handled it properly, I like Black Clover deserves to still, because now people are, its
Mm,
legacy is very much not legacy, but its outcome is very much, let's just get it over and done with, which is one of the
yeah.
reasons why I agree with Joseph. Like Jump Giga really wasn't the perfect place to go, but I'm glad at least Tabata has a chance to relax, to tend to his wounds, to focus on his family, because his daughter was also sick.
Mm,
And that's always a shame, right? And I feel like Black Clover deserved also to get the praise, because whenever Black Clover does something really great, it's always hampered down by the sins of its past. Like the past never
mm.
dies for it. I remember for a
That's
long,
always
like
so for
when,
everything.
yeah, but I feel like Black Clover got the short end of the stick. Um, like
Mm,
look at the war arc, right? When he went
mm.
to Spades. Was it Spades? I'm pretty sure it was Spade. Uh,
Face in
like
Black Clover.
yeah, there was like a stretch of chapters when it was Asta and Libe fight against why am I forgetting the devil's name? Lucifero. I thought that was fantastic. But
But
people
don't
also were
remember that.
focusing
Don't.
on it was such a good fight. And now Black Clover lost its steam because of Jump Giga. Even like the past arc where like Asta went to the Land of the Sun, amazing, phenomenal. I think it was some of like
You know,
Tabata's best like stretch of chapters in terms of just consistency. But what are you saying,
the
Ampasi?
for me, yeah, for me, if tell me if you don't hear me clearly because it's a new headphone set, and so I don't know if the mic is can correct can s- can really translate my song really well when I'm talking. So, for me in general, uh, how can I say it? Is that the Black Clover? The issue with Black Clover is that the story, in my eyes, is it has. Ali, what I said about Tabata as a writer, as a story writer, he has really good ideas, but the execution goes most of the time not to the right way. You know what I mean? He has
Hmm.
the idea, the concept is really good. The concept is really good. Even the potential of it is gigantic. But then when he has to work on it, it goes off the path of greatness. For me, the concept of the magic in Black Clover, the idea was really great. The fact that the relationship that people had with their books, with their grimoires, that it was a reflection of their self. So the Giga problem pencil.
Mm.
Yes, Giga has sometimes the same problem too. Is that they had so the relationship with the grimoire when I was telling you is that it reflects their pain, their war hardship, their training. They sometimes it gave them the spell that they were going that they needed. You know what I mean? So the queryum is a response to them, or even it is a reflection of them. Okay, something if you when I talk to you about this like this, it seems like a great idea.
Hmm.
Great idea. The fact is, it's a great idea, but it has a lot of I will say huge gaps that you need to escape to dodge. Because if you go too much in one of these aspects, it becomes corny. It becomes yes, typically you're gonna get a spell when the spell that they need when they need it the most. And Tabata, he plays to vary stuff, like to vary stuff when about his power system. He goes always for the same stuff. or the spell happened when the spell that he needs comes when he needed the most for everybody in the story. So sometimes the best thing about this power system, he will only use once or twice in his story. And that's sad. That's just an example about how the story goes. And he was he was these mistakes brought him to where he was, because even the idea, the fight between Magna and I forgot the
Dante.
guy's name, Dante, bro. How did he? It was amazing. It was
Mm-hmm.
the idea and the execution amazing. Then we got to the other fights, and it started to fizzle out. The idea of having Mary fighting against the big demon. Okay, it's good. We get some beautiful scenes. The art is amazing, and then you get the story with and the two books, bro. But that guy, the story about him being loved by magic, and you know what I mean. These kind of stuff start to fizzle out. You know what I mean?
I will
And
say I love the Unify like against Senna. I love it, but I do get it. I
really,
absolutely get it.
the idea about him being the guy linked to the wind,
Mhm.
he has one of the four spirits. This guy is fucking OP, and he gets the power of the stars.
Well, what I found so funny is that up until that point, you're like, okay, so cracked at like wind magic, right? Like at a certain point, it's kind of insane. But then you realize that's not even his actual magic. That's the spirit of Lix and Tetsuya's like child. So then you get to his actual magic, and it's spatial. And I'm like, what the hell? Like now he has two
That's
attributes, and he is rebroken. He can
that's
teleport. He can like essentially stop time in like a specific area. Essentially rewrite magic just to kind of nerf the main antagonist. It's like, oh my fucking god, like what the hell?
Yo, man. That's I was reading this. I was thinking to myself about why did he need to do that? I fully understand that the idea that he had another magic is fully understandable. The idea that so it's everything is understandable, but he's so special scale in the story that he's already the thing about him is that he's loved by Mana, so everything goes right to him.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Since the beginning of
Yes.
the story, that guy is loved. He's loved by Mana. It keeps harping on this, and it becomes like literally when you have a big development for this character, then he cuts it out with his love by Mana. Becomes sheep. So everything that because we know that
Hmm.
Yuno trains as a character, because he grew up with Asta, he's a guy that always knew the value of work and working hard too. So everything about that character goes always away because he has always to use that sentence. He's loved by the man
Yeah.
because it becomes
And this boy is hated by Mana for Asta. Very much a
for
love
us.
story.
Yes. So it's really that's the thing about like so much potential, but sometimes you're
Mhm.
thinking to yourself, you can go that way. Stay on you
Yeah.
on the good path. Don't stray
I
from it. But
I
he always has to
remember
stray from
in Ponzu, I got like
it.
a lot of hate from the Black Clover community,
Yeah. Hmm.
uh,
Yes.
especially death threats. So a
Hmm.
while back, I was talking to a friend of mine,
Hmm.
about and how my
Yeah.
biggest issue with is that although Tabata's idea of separating Asta and and putting them into different squads, so having them both in like the Black Bulls would have been really
Hmm.
like you want to build a world, so you separate
Hmm.
them, right? You put one in like the Golden Dawn, you put the other one in the Black Bulls, and you see them grow, right? But the
One
issue
to the
with that,
rejects and one
yeah,
to the
to
and one to
the
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 RT
most beloveds,
aristocrat. Yes.
yeah, the issue with that, right, is that because you want to flesh out the Black Bulls, make them a family, you spend so much time
Hmm.
with them. So
Hmm.
because of that, you don't have enough time to focus on the Golden Dawn, or I guess the Golden Gon. So a lot of times Yuno's growth is off screen, and it's really frustrating when because like Yuno is the deuteragonist, and
Mm-hmm.
he never felt like the deuteragonist until the second act where you get to focus on Yuno's failure because he was
Mm-hmm.
late, right? He arrived late, he got to see half of the squad, all of them wiped out until half of them were saved. And like you get more focus on but it never felt like, oh, this was worth it, right? Like it
Mm-hmm.
felt like oh my God, now we could finally get more It was great, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we didn't spend much time on him. We did get to see more about how he feels, his
Mm-hmm.
growth, his like power like journey, aside from like one bit with Langris, where he's like, we'll train together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then he shows up, fights Zeno. It's like it's really disappointing being a fan, I feel. Like not me personally. Austin's my Wizard King. Uh
Yeah,
it just
but
sucks. Like you could have done so much more with if you
yes,
put more
I'm a,
focus on him.
and I'm already, and I'm that's the same thing. The thing about um na- uh Black Clover and MHA are two series that I grew up with that are the product of from that period. You know what I mean? The
Hmm.
others watch the big three, and every one of them use a part of the big three in then how they grew up to and how they loved it. Even if you call JJK, even through you can throw JJK in it. The big three has a lot impact on them. One piece is the fact that stories today, like JJK and Black Love, the world is always more expensive. It's just the story is not only in one country, but
Hmm.
they acknowledge there is a world behind it. There is a world.
Yes.
Even the way that they treat the world building is quite big. It's quite expensive. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's the concept of what the One Piece aspect. Sometimes it's even the character building, and that's then you get Naruto. Naruto is the character. The characters how they portray the message and concept and idea. You
Hmm.
get it with Naruto, even the Akatsuki, the idea that every villain represents something. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And peace and pain was peace. So then you got Bleach. Bleach, the whole aspect of Bleach is about how to deep dive in your character. That's what the JK tries to do most of the time. Is the questions about yourself. About there are real. Bleach is all about the questioning about your reality and yourself. You see that with Ichigo. Every time, every villain has to question himself why you are doing what you're doing. You know what
Mm.
I mean? That's really introspective. That's the idea of
Yes.
Bleach. Even the power system is about that. The Zanpakuto is really introspective. My Hero Academia has it in its how the relationship with your power, with your quirk. Because Deku has a whole stuff with the quirk system. You know what I mean? Because as someone that never had a quirk, the first thing that he had to understand is that a quirk is part of you. It's part of you, and you have to have a relationship with it. That's a different. He had there's the whole stuff in it, and it's really fun to see that. Black Clover now has the One Piece style for the for the world building, the idea that there is a world behind it, and the world and it is interactive with us too. And yet it has the philosophy of Naruto with Asta about trying to teach something about the world, trying to be a better version of yourself. Asta is the fighter is the character about trying to be the best version of yourself. That was the Sasuke of his story. So, like Naruto, Sasuke had his own part,
Hmm.
trying to travel, seeing the world, having a new vision about the world. And the fact that he started Asta, he threw Asta on the Black Bulls in the rejects, he threw Asta to the rejects group when there is the social outcasts of different stuff. Oh, noble reject nobles. We got witchers, witches. We got Shami that is a dwarf. There's all these people are kind of the rejects of society. Asta was living with them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And we got the genius guy from the proletariat. I will say it's that will go living with the aristocracy. So you get the nobles, all the bullshit in the Golden Dawn. So that was something that we should have seen too. His how he would have how this his vision of society and how these people should have been clashed all the time. You know what I mean? And what we saw in the story is always the consequences of the repercussion of that relationship. We never saw the the process. That's what you were talking about. We never saw the process of
Yes.
how it became so loved. So it feels cheap in the story at the end. It feels cheap because he always get what he wants. You know, even if you know that he works as a character, for in the fact that they all both want to be Wizard King, you have to make it believable. You have to make it
Yes.
believable in the story. And Tabata was always about as a writer. That's one of his qualities. But also what that can go to the bad way is he wants to keep his story short to the point, to the essential. That's what he tried to do with Black Clover. So
Yeah, I
you
agree.
don't waste a lot of and you don't waste a lot of time on some sad stuff like with after lost his arms. The
Mhm.
fact that he was sad about it, it was just one chapter. It was just one chapter. You know what I mean? All
Yeah,
this
I
stuff, all this, he doesn't want to lose time with it. He just try to go really fast. But sometimes you have to slow down. You have to
mhm.
give people space to absorb the emotions and the story. And he should have that done too with for me in the story because he has even the idea that he has the concept that he is as a deuteragonist is fucking good. He's
Mhm.
not like a pesky rival. No, he's just the best. He's the brother of Asta,
Yes.
and they push each. That's a positive relationship, and that's beautiful. But
Mhm.
me, that's the
I
it's
absolutely
sad.
agree.
It's
I
so
do
much,
think
like
it'd
I
be
told you.
really interesting to instead of
Mhm.
what Tabata did, because like
Yeah.
I think the concept of the hardworking character versus the character that has talent, right, is like
Mhm.
very intrinsically connected to shonen, right? But
Yes.
there's always a stage where talent will carry you so far, right? Like hard
Yes.
work can surpass it. I do think like
Mhm.
that's what Tabata tried to do with Yuno, but he did successfully capture that. Uh, like
Mm,
Asta was that kind of like the fuel that like lit Yuno's fire, where he saw because there's no way in hell you can tell me Yuno deserves to be the Wizard King more than Asta. Like there's no way in hell you can tell me that. I would laugh at your
uh,
face because like Tabata has
and
spent so much time focusing on Asta's like desire to be Wizard King
yes.
that Yuno feels like he's piggybacking.
And that's true. But the thing you have to remember is that after if he becomes the Wizard King, he's the Wizard King for the people from the people. He's the Wizard King of the people, from the proletariat. As the fact that he gained the hearts of the golden dawn, he gained the heart of the nobles. So
Mhm.
if they will choose someone that becomes the Wizard King, the nobles will say, everyone will say it is for them. And it does if and that's the thing that there's a big problem. That's the writing of Tabata to make this what the statement that I'm saying believable. It should have shown more of Yuno's path, and that's like you said, that's the repercussion of going too fast and focus only on your main character when he has a rival, a positive rival, you should have you can you can show just the results of his work because the thing that comes over is like he never worked for it. He just got it. The
Mhm.
fact that was the he was seen as the perfect boy, as the perfect girl. He's handsome, he's tall, he looks he looks like the typical how Japanese people think of what is beautiful. You know what I mean? Asa is literally what people non-Japanese people little stocky as a character. So the fact that he gets everything that he wants, that so much people want in their life, for it doesn't come as good. Doesn't come as good because we never see the work behind it. And I can believe you done this said even excluding the different struggles. Asta has a way better acquisition and connections than for sure, because we see them. We never saw what experience and what connections he made. That's the problem. That's the thing about history and many romans and a couple of BL titles. What the uh okay, it was not for me. So that's the idea is that as a character what is missing to make the story. What I would say, Tabata, I know that he can do this stuff, but that was not his. He never, like I said, he won't want watches this. He wanted the story to have a fast pacing. He
Mhm.
didn't want to have the story that, like, back in the day, he really like, even One Piece has still that problem of taking the time to tell a story. Sometimes it becomes so. Most of the time, we all have these moments in Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach that you say to yourself, okay, you know what? I won't read for 2, 3, 1 month, so I can come back. I have 4 chapters to read because I feel the story doesn't move. It never wanted to do that kind of story with Black Clover. But yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Mhm.
Black Clover. But the story that I want to push out my agenda is Centuria. This is the story that everybody should read. Everybody should read Centuria.
I've heard of
Literally.
that. I actually
It's
heard a lot of people talk about that. It looks interesting.
yes. Look, man, the story. I didn't read like for 1 or 2 weeks, so I can't wait to read what's happening now. But the story is so good. Is the art is a mix of Berserk with some love question, Lovecraft, love Lovecraft concepts. So you have
Mhm.
some monsters in it that look so good. It has
I've heard
some
a lot of
background.
people mention Villain Saga too.
Yes, yes, for sure. The idea, the concept is a mix. It's a mix of different big names, say name like uh, Vinland Saga, Berserk with My Hero Academia for the eyes sometimes. Even the way that the characters are stocky, it has some My Hero Academia flavor on it. The art is so good. Art is so good. The story, the idea, the concept of the story is good. But I don't want to spoil it because the idea is we follow a slave and he gets a chance to a new life, a new meaning to his life, and we follow him in a world where magic, not magic, the mysticism is on the corner of the streets. That's how I will describe it. It's so good. It's sad too. The first chapter is hooked me. And I said to all these, how many people are we now are following us now? 10 people. The 10 people that are that are watching us. Please, please read Centuria. Have
Yeah,
some
give it a
fun.
shot.
Tell a friend. Give a shot
Mhm.
because this story shouldn't be get axed but I shouldn't. So or I will pull up there. I take a gun and shot one of them because this story is too good to be. The
Mhm.
story is beautiful. The message is beautiful. You should all read it. Okay, I did my NG moment, so I'm
We
fine
love
now.
that. I mean,
Uh,
earlier I tried to push the Wukong agenda. So you know what?
Wukong.
Speaking of Wukong, I posted into the Discord. I got the what they were like selling the Ryu Jingubang, like the staff that
Hmm.
Wukong has. I
Yes.
posted to Gerald. It's
Yeah,
so
your butt
so
plug.
cool. That is crazy. But no,
I,
the
I
game's
still
phenomenal. And if you like Wukong-esque stories, especially since this game is a sequel to essentially a sequel to the Journey of the West. Uh,
Huh?
Definitely play it. Absolutely. It's probably my game of the year.
Oh, okay. I can't believe that because from what I saw, the storytelling, everything looks really amazing. But I
Mm.
will tell you something. If you want to read this good story about Wukong, you should read God of High School.
I was about to mention
There's
that.
God of High School.
Uh,
Sayuki is also fun. Sayuki is an anime about Sanzo, Goku,
mhm.
and all. So, but the following Sanzo try, and you have Sanzo getting allez, Sayuki is the journey to the west, literally, but in kind modernized. It's really fun.
Mm.
The main character is so you got Sanzo, Goku. Goku is like so Son Wukong. You got Goku and who again? I forgot the name. So you get the two others guys, but they all have human form and they all have really good backstories. It's really fun. I used to watch it when I was younger on television. My uncle even bought us a DVD back then about the story, and I kept watching it.
Mm.
It's really good. Sayuki, it's named. It's an anime. So you get this one too, and uh, there's some Chinese movies at the moment. You can watch it on Netflix that are based on the whole universe with Neja, the green and white snake, and you get Sun Wukong in it. So I would suggest y'all to watch it. It's a good it's a modernized story too about the concept of all these mythical figures, and they use these figures figure these powers also as stands. Oh, it's really fun. So I
Mhm.
will you get green I think white snake or green snake on Netflix, and you got Neja. Neja is written like this in the chat. I will write for you guys.
Mm.
Neja is really fun too. It was a really fun movie.
Mm. If I could,
Mm-hmm.
if I could push an agenda, uh,
Mm-hmm.
if MK is still listening, um, Wild Strawberry, is very, very good. It's very much if you like K and Y, if you like really good art that is similar to Tokyo Ghoul at some points.
Is K and Y
Uh,
Demon Slayer? I'm just
yes,
asking.
Demon
Yes.
Slayer. Wild Strawberry is phenomenal. It follows the story of a guy called Kingo, uh, who is just trying to live his best life. As far as I can say without spoiling, because the first chapter is very, very wild. So you should definitely
Okay.
read Wild Strawberry. Gorgeous Art 2. It's not that long currently. I think it's like almost 30 chapters or so. Uh it's also like the idea of using plants as your power system. Very, very cool.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Also,
I've made a power
MK
system.
would recommend it, so you should definitely.
Okay, good. Uh, auditory or other agenda push. Okay, guys. Read more
My
American American and French manga. I will say like this. Read Radiant first. That's the
Mm.
one that we have the easiest access to. It's a magic story. The power system is fun. Uh, and they base I met the mangaka multiple times. Multiple times. It's a really fun, really good story, and even the way that he was talking about the story, because I had the chance to talk with him for one
Oh.
hour. 1 hour, just me, him, and my best friend. After the convention was finished, we were just talking, and we were sharing about the story, the his concepts, and how he think about stuff. So this guy studied history to write his story. And he was talking about how back in the 1700s of 1800s, when people started the concept of selfie was people trying to getting painting of themselves was something really important. And the mirror, that's when the mirror popped up a lot back in the day. So he was talking about everything that and how it reflected on the story, and the idea of enslavement in his story too. So he
Mhm.
he has he he he's a big fan. He grew up in France in the not the suburbs, in the hood. I would say more the hood in France. So he has a love for the African culture in general and the American culture. So he listened to hip hop, R&B, Afro, and he make characters reflecting it. He have a read. There's like 18 volumes of it. It's a treat. Radiance is amazing. American comics. You get the Saturday AM is a company that makes American mangas, and then one manga that I will push that I read really fun to read was um oh damn, the name is escaping me. Oblivion Rouge.
Mm.
It's a story a story where we follow war children getting becoming soldiers trying to protect their people. It's fun. The art is it's good. It's used some tints of red sometimes and green. So it's a fun read. There is normally one volume out and the second is getting out. So I would suggest you all to read it. To buy volume, support the American manga scene, and have fun. Literally, the world is popping, guys. We will have we'll have a lot panoplies of new stories getting shared around the world, new ideas. No more chasing demon stories. So yeah, have fun.
It's actually a perfect segue because I was going to say we should start wrapping up here. Um,
Actually,
so we'll
can I start because I have
Yes.
to leave to eat food because I'm starving. I haven't ate anything at all. Uh, so I guess we were talking about JJK. I think no matter how it ended, this is still a massive giant of the manga industry that has just concluded, right? Like, no matter how you feel about the series, it still has touched so many people. It still has generated a lot of hype. It honestly changed the landscape of how people perceive manga, especially leak culture. So it is very it kind of feels like it hasn't left us in a way, right? Um, I honestly started the series loving it, and I did fall out of it, but I still have a massive appreciation for the series. And I hope that from here on out, Gege will discover how he likes to write manga and fine tune his writing skill, right? Um, I do think it'll be kind of sad to see JK go just off the notion of like how people like the community, right? Like no matter how annoying it was, the when Gojo will come back meme has been really fun to follow. All the accounts made for tracking how long he's been gone, and then when he came back, and then when he left the series again, it was very funny watching it happen. I do think that my issues with JJK hasn't changed since the manga ended. I still don't like Nobara's return. Uh, I was never a big fan of how they dealt with Kenjaku, and a few others, but I won't bog down the stream by talking about how I feel. I will leave off with a positive note. JJK, we will never forget you. You were great, very fun. And obviously, we still have a lot to go with the anime because we still have a lot of years if they still want to push it. And the idea of like spin-offs excite me because they're like, I do want these characters to still be in the cultural zeitgeist for a long time, especially because a lot of them deserve more content like Megami. I mentioned before that I felt really disappointed with Megami's character. I do like the fact that he's still around though. I really appreciate that he didn't go down the route people thought he was going to go down, which was death. I like the fact that he's still living. I also like the fact that Yuji's still living too. I never liked the concept of Yuji dying. I get it, but I like the fact that Gege moved like away from that. That he is going to die of old age, surrounded by people that he loves, and I fuck with that. I like positive notes, even if there is like a surrounding negative aspect of it. I fuck with this. But yeah, the JJK, uh, I appreciate it. I very much give it a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 for the anime, possibly 9, depending on how they do Megami versus is it Reggie?
Reggie Star.
Yeah, I love that. But yeah, that's it. I am gonna hop out. Make sure to drink some water, eat some foods, and have a fantastic day. Peace. See you next week.
See you
Coyote?
next week.
You wanna get some final thoughts, Coyote?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Shit. I'll just leave it on JJK since I don't really talk about much other series. JJK is one of those series where it's one of those series where you wish there was more coming from JJK. A lot of issues I think would be solved if there was just 2, maybe 3 arcs in between some of the big arcs. Like a lot of people wanted the Gojo interactions before he fought Sukuna, and that would have been very much appreciated. And in general, you would think we would have a lot more interactions because there are certain character dynamics that are just not explored that are obvious. Example, Choso and Toto with Yuji, or just in general, Toto and Yuki was not very much a thing we had because Gege wanted to focus on the plot instead of character interactions, which works. I get it, but you would think that should come first. There's some things where fan service is kind of more important than just plot, like the Yuki Toto thing and Choso Toto. I think that's more important than just leaving Toto out of the plot because soul resonance. I think you should have just wrote around that or just in general made that not a thing. But in general, I think JJK, I already said this earlier, has some of the most striking characters for me personally. I think they don't need to try too hard to make a character likable. I don't need like a Hikari backstory. I like Hikari just because, he's striking. Same with Toto striking. A lot of the characters just don't need much for me to enjoy them, and I think that's a plus on JJK writing wise. And then as well, I think as a final villain, Sukuna, I think he's probably one of the better, if not, I can't say, the best because I haven't read like One Piece and all the, but for me, he's one of the most better final villains in a series. I enjoyed his personality and his character fully through, and I think as a villain, he established his dominance throughout the entire series through Shibuya, through fucking Colon Games and all the other arcs. I think he did a decent job at establishing his threat, and he did what he needed to do. He took out the strongest. He took out Kashimo, Gojo, even Choso, but I don't think it's same with All for One and the other one. I don't think they need to kill every single side cast villain or hero, I should say. Like he doesn't need to kill Ino, Kusakabe, or all the other characters to be a well-rounded villain to me, like other people think. And I don't think All for One needed to kill every single, side villain to be a decent villain. But I think he did what he needed to. That's all that matters. And then as a whole, yeah, JJK solid 8 out of 10 for me. I'm happy with how it ended. I don't need much more. Anything else would have been nice, but that's all I can really say about JJK. That's all.
All right, thank you, Coyote. Joseph?
I don't really have a whole lot to say. I mean,
It's okay.
yeah, I didn't really. But like you, I feel like the best part of Jujutsu Kaisen was hidden inventory, and that's because it largely was character focus, which needed to happen more often, I feel. Uh, I do uh I do think, like Coyote said, there should have been like, okay, so I think this series probably would have felt better paced if there was more time between the big arcs, like
Mhm.
going like there should have been at least another 1 to 2 arcs before Shibuya, I feel, because the best comparison I can think of is if my hero jumped from the final exam arc to the Paranormal Liberation Front battle. It was just too much too soon, I feel. Um, I mean, yes, like I wouldn't say I hated the series because if I did, I wouldn't have kept up with it. I just wasn't as invested in things after hidden inventory, uh, which is a shame because that arc was so good. Um,
Look, I've said it for years. It's the best arc in the series.
yeah. I do feel like Gege, like, because he had like what was eventually re-released as Volume Zero was like I
Tokyo
think
Metropolitan High School.
yeah, like I feel like stapling that to the start of the series caused more problems than it solved. Um, but I am glad that we got Yuta because he actually was a good character. Yeah, like Final Verdict, I don't really like ranking things. I just
Yeah.
overall it was fine, I guess. Like I said, like I said, like if it got to the point where I just reading it made me like mad, I would have just stopped reading it because I got better things to do to go out of my way to read to engage with the piece of media that upsets me. Which is probably why my YouTube subs kind of so low. So, yeah, it was fine, I guess. Can't really say I loved the final chapter, but can't really say I hated it either. It was just sort of in the middle. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Bonzo, do you have anything else you want to add or?
Yeah, I'm gonna say some little things. But yeah, for me, JJK was a story that I didn't like first. So yeah, uh, another ghost story, another demon story. Oh, Exorcist. But yeah, I can say, uh, it got really interesting characters, and I can give it to Gege Akutami that he can write some interesting stuff. The power system was something that was interesting. Not better than Ned, but still interesting. I like the way that it was kind of free flowing, I will say like this. Gojo is a good character in my eyes. It's a good character. I had fun reading him. I had fun reading him. And I can understand why his appeal is so big. Even the anime really portrayed it really well. So his fight scenes were fun to read. This idea, the way that he panels stuff was interesting too. The fights, the way that the action was action packed. So Gege, uh, Yuji was a surprise for me as a character at the end of the story. Of the story, the story. So yeah, the story was not my cup of tea. Not because in the beginning and even later on, multiple times I stopped reading it. Reading it, the fight of Hakari and Kashimo. I didn't read it. I didn't read it for a long time. I was reading for a long time. I didn't read my MHA, TJK because of it. So I had so the experience for me is between a 6 or a 7, I will say, for TJK. Uh, I loved the concept, the idea of of the villain, Sukuna. I had fun. I had really he was a really a really fun villain to follow at the end. From how more I started to understand the character, how more I had fun to read him. Because I knew from how Giga Kutami was writing that he might get his karma back. The fact that he died like a curse, like a stupid, like something, like a what do we call it? Parasite. He died like a parasite, like he was in the story. He was a parasite, destroying people's life, and he died like this. It was good. I loved it. I loved the fight. The end of the fight of MHA was really of JJK was really something that I was enjoying this week. And yeah, I can't wait to see the next stuff that he will write that he will do. So yeah, a 6.5, 7. No, I was 7 is more correct. It's more correct. A 7 on 10 for JJK. The anime might even get better because he might rework everything for some stuff. But yeah, it's all for me. Thank you for following us, and I'll leave everything to you, Aniki.
Oh, I think Wolf might be gone.
Yeah.
There he is.
I guess I'll go. Um, yeah, so JJK, I feel like I can't sum up how I feel about it completely. It's got a lot of things going for it. I really love the action. I do really like a lot of the characters. Despite some of KK's more questionable handling, especially later in the series. Um, I think it really does keep the pressure on. You're with it. Like you do definitely feel that escalation in tension. Like I will say, like wasn't a whole lot of moments where I was like, "Damn, that person is safe." Like I wasn't really sure. I'm really happy with how it like the broad strokes is what happened. I'd still say it's a decent read. Definitely check it out. My main issues is in a sense, Gege just keeps dropping things that he should keep picking up, and he has a lot of ideas he can't really fully realize, whether it's like um things with Gojo just feel kind of contradictory, like he wants him to pass on kind of the message, like there's no need for Gojo Satoru when he was kind of always wanting to be there for everybody. And like sometimes it feels like Gege is speaking as the character instead of letting the character speak for himself. Um, yeah. And I really love Hidden Inventory. I really like a lot the early arcs. I really like Shibuya. Culling Game, despite some of its issues, it is still enjoyable read. And so is the Shinjuku Showdown. It's just there are these things that prevent it from fully tying together in a way that that really like feels like okay, that makes sense, and and the author really did what he wanted to do. I don't get that sense of fulfillment. So overall trajectory, I'm fine with. I can't say like I'm super bummed about the ending because like I felt like this was where we were going anyways. I don't like how certain threads were handled, but I do like others. I do like sometimes things will come back in surprising ways. I love the whole conversation between Eugene Sukuna and 265 because that really gets to what the spirit and the message of the story is about. And I feel like when JJK is like kind of upfront about the shonen stuff, it tends to be at its best compared to what I see a lot of people praise the series for. I feel that has actual substance. So I'm gonna give this another shot, leave it alone for a while. When all the volumes are out in English, I'm gonna read it again and see how it fares. Um, I'd I definitely recommend this to people who, want a fast and breezy manga to read with, some interesting questions asked. So there's a lot more to like here than there isn't. So yeah. I do want to thank Gege. It's not easy making a manga. I know there's a lot of sarcasm and people kind of being a little nasty about him, but all the same, like I'm glad I got into the series more than anything else. So yeah.
All right. Thanks to everybody that stopped by today. We'll say thank you, Akutami Gege, for writing this series. Uh, I still have fun with it, even if there's some stuff that I thought was questionable. And I'm sure if I sit down and reread, there's a couple things I'm going to come back to and go, but that's okay. Sometimes that's not what you're reading for, and that's all right. Um, it kind of just is what it is in that department. I know Coyote had reached out to me and was like, "What's your hot take?" And I was like, "A lot of the symbols and stuff that Gege uses are more for the rule of cool than necessarily to do a heavy extrapolation. It just kind of is what it is sometimes, and that's okay. Um, I don't have any topics planned for next week, so I don't know. Maybe the next time something gets axed or something like that, we'll have an excuse to reconvene, or I don't know. Well, actually, My Hero movie should be in theaters in like 2 weeks, so maybe that'll be the next stream. I don't know. I'll
Go
figure it
check out
out.
Transformers 1. That's good.
Okay. Actually, the anime season is also going to, so maybe I'll catch up on the anime. We can sit here and talk about the anime for a bit. But yeah,